Hello, and welcome back to In Play Company with Demetra Gray, another episode. We are not actually back yet as a podcast because I'm pregnant. Surprise. Kristin's here with me. If you hear her giggle, I'm going to introduce her in a moment. But yeah, I'm pregnant, and when I made the episode of back in July when I was taking a break from the podcast, I did really think I was going to come back in the fall and make some new episodes. But I really feel like I was feeling God just saying, take a break. And I thought it was because we were moving countries and things were happening. And I really wanted to have a calm. I haven't it'll be funny someday to listen back to the last episode because I really wanted to have a very nice, calm summer of relaxing and no stress and baking and having it was like my soft girl summer I was gonna do. And then none of that happened. And I got to move countries and be pregnant. And I actually missed the podcast, just so everybody knows. I missed the podcast and my Substack, but I also am creating a human, and I don't know. I'm going to be a mother first and then see what I do with it all. So, anyway, we're back for a surprise episode because Kristin was on the podcast back, I don't know when. I meant to look up the number of the episode. Do you know
I
what
don't,
number
I
you
know
were?
it was
Well,
published in May.
okay, well, she was on an episode back. Sorry, guys. My brain, I actually really do have like pregnancy brain, and I don't know how this is all gonna go because I feel like my brain is a bit more like how do you say that? Sieve?
Oh
A
yeah.
sieve. A sieve is how I pronounce it in my head. A sieve. And oh, here's well, it doesn't matter, but you were on episode 17. So if anybody wants to go back to your whole like uh journey, because you were Catholic to New Age to Christian, I guess, and I'll let you give like a couple sentence summary of that so people have the background. But anyway, Kristin had a similar journey of like New Age to Christian, and I feel like we also have had this fun overlap, at least it's been fun for me, of because you moved to, like, you recently moved as well to Tennessee.
hmm
And because of that, you've been trying to find a church home. And we recently moved and have been trying to find a church home. And I feel like back when we spoke last, you were pretty like Protestant for sure. And now I'm not sure if that's still true or if you're kind of just exploring all options. And I feel like back in the last time I made episodes, I was more like orthodoxy for sure. And now I'm sort of like, I don't really know, and exploring different ones. So we're just gonna have this conversation to talk through like all of it, and we'll see where we go. So, hi, Kristin, Jacopelli. Is that how you
Yeah.
say it? I love
Yes.
I love saying your last name. Sometimes, oh wait, I wanted to fix my computer screen so I'm not distracted. Um, yeah, I'll say it. I have another friend, Kristin, and so sometimes I'll be like, Kristin, and Jordan's like, which Kristin? I'm like, Jacopelli. Like saying it. Anyway, welcome
Thank
back.
you.
And do you want to just give everyone like a bit of a context of your like I was Catholic and then I was the like what happened, but in like
Yeah.
a few sentences? Because we
Yeah.
did the whole story before.
Well, I don't know whether we did the whole story. There's so much.
No?
Always with every testimony, like not just mine. I feel like there's like so many elements. No, I feel like there's so much more that could be said, but I will just say I was a cradle Catholic, raised in the Catholic Church. Um, I would say that we weren't really religious, it was like we just went to the holiday masses and every so often we'd go to other masses and I was like, what are we doing? Like, I hated
Yeah.
it. I did not really remember learning much.
Did you get confirmed? Did you
Yes.
like, oh,
I did all of the things.
okay.
So I guess, I've been told that once Catholic, always Catholic. So like the Catholic Church will always accept me as one of them. But yeah, anyway, I left when I was 18. It all just sounded so like rote and rehearsed and just kind of dead to me. And I was like, I don't understand what we're doing here. And it never occurred to me at the time to explore what Protestants were doing and believing in and how they were practicing their faith. I just left the faith. I didn't think I left God, but yeah, I have a different opinion about that now. But like, I went into the New Age and it was just like a slippery slope, and I just kept going deeper, deeper, deeper. Didn't as many things as most people could imagine, except Satanism. Um, and then I started getting a lot of spiritual warfare and attacks, and it was relentless. And there was a point where it occurred to me to start talking to God. And I did have people praying for me and talking to me about Jesus, so there was an influence. And then ultimately, I was saved. And when I say that, it was like a slow stepping into it because I was afraid of things being culty. Um, and then it was an overnight. So it was like, yeah, learning. And then it was like, oh, I got baptized by the Holy Spirit. I suddenly know who Jesus is. I fully am with him now, and I recognize him as God. And it was like that, just then it was like, okay, I get it. Now I get it.
When was that for you? How long ago? Because that you did that before me. A while
It
before?
was around, I don't know the exact date, but I know when I was like water baptized, but I think that happened in February or March of 2024. Yeah.
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 Um, have you found, this is like a side question, have you found that I've discovered that my Christian friends don't really know what New Age means. Has that happened to you?
Yeah, there's some, I mean, I have
Like
a,
to me, New Age is just such like I'm like I've been drowning in it for so long that I'm like obviously this is like what it means. And then I've said to people a number of times now like like I was really in the New Age world and like a couple of times now someone like usually people just nod along and then a couple of times people have been like what is that? And I'm like I don't know how to explain this to you exactly. Like it's just so I didn't know that it was I don't know that people would know what it meant.
I know, I've had that, and I've tried to be like, well, like Gnosticism is part of it, but also people pull from Hinduism because of yoga, and then there's also like, manifestation and like sort of occulty things, and I'm like, I don't know, it's a big umbrella, you know?
It gets weirder when you try to explain what it is. Like in my
Mm-hmm.
head I feel like I just know what it is, like what it means. Oops, and I keep hitting my computer. And then people will be like they don't know and I'm like, well, I don't know. It's like a mix of all of these different things that just sort of come together, I guess. And you can believe some and not others.
Yeah, I mean, as you were talking, I was like, probably the best way to help people understand who don't would just probably to call it paganism.
Yeah, I guess so. Like
You
more of a
know,
pagan. Yeah, I feel like that would be a good way to get people to understand some of it. I mean, I feel like most people listening to this will know what we mean, but it
mm,
just never in my life occurred to me that someone wouldn't know what that meant. And now I've met so many people who just like genuinely don't know what that means. And then I try to explain it and I feel like they still don't really fully get it. They're just like, okay. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, yeah, anyway. Um, so what has it been like for you now in uh Tennessee finding a church? Because then I want to tell you what it well, you know kind of, but we'll tell everyone. I want to
yeah,
tell
no, I
everyone
want to
what it's
hear
been
it
like.
more. I want to hear it there's also details I haven't heard yet about
Well,
your
there's new things.
story.
I actually
Oh.
I dragged Jordan to a new Orthodox church this weekend, and he hated it. But anyway, we can go back to that.
That's hilarious. Yeah, so what I didn't say before was that I've been going to like non-denominational churches for the most part. And so when I was in Australia, for sure, that's what I was doing. And then when I came back to the States, I was mostly doing that, but I was kind of trying to figure it out. Since coming to Tennessee, it's the Bible Belt, so there's tons of churches. I would say probably the majority of them are some kind of evangelical or non-denominational or the Reformed Baptist. That seems to be like the main thing. And so initially I was going to two churches and I was going every Sunday to both churches and I was having such different experiences. Um,
How did you choose?
so the first one that I went to, I found them. I'd heard about them from Blurry Creatures podcast. Not that they go there, but that I think they had done an event there or something, and they had mentioned it. And then I think I followed on Instagram for a little while, and then I was like, I'm curious about this place. And when I went, I really loved the service. Mostly, I loved the worship actually because um going in, like they start worship as a lot of the, non-denominational churches do. The church wasn't overly big, as in like the room itself wasn't overly big. And the worship team was amazing. And what they were doing is, they're praying and you're worshiping and all the things. And then there's a point where they stopped and they would invite you to do communion, and usually there was a prayer and like you'd walk up to the front and you take it yourself, and then while people were taking communion they would continue worship, and they put the prayer team out to like the perimeter of the room. So if you felt like you needed extra prayer, if you didn't want to take communion, you just wanted prayer, you could do that. If you didn't want to do communion, you just worship or pray by yourself or whatever. So like the fact that there was like prayer and communion and worship all at once, it just felt so good and so right. And I was like, this is like amazing.
And when they do communion at this church, are you all drinking from the same cup, or is it just like little plastic cups of?
So they had like two sort of versions where you could take those little pre-made cups that they give a lot in the Protestant churches.
Yeah.
Or there was next to that, like there was a bowl of like crackers, kind of. And then there would be like grape juice, essentially, and you dip that
Oh,
in, and then you just take that with you.
okay.
Um, so yeah, it was up to people, however they wanted to do it. But I just that whole it felt very reverent and it felt very right, and I just really, really loved that. And initially, I think they were initially like in the Book of Ruth or something. So I was like, oh, this is interesting. They're like doing a teaching and in a book that's probably not very popular or like, and so they always kind of touched a little bit on cultural stuff, which it just didn't really affect me one way or the other, but they felt kind of more charismatic, like there was more of a feeling of the Holy Spirit, and there was like a lot of I don't know, charisma. I don't know how else to say it. It's just like you feel the spirit. And so I loved it. And I loved the people. I just felt like they were also like a little bit out of the box type thinkers, and apparently this church became really popular during the pandemic because they did not require masks and they stayed open and like, all this kind of stuff. And so I think maybe that's part of why it attracted people who were like not just going with whatever narrative. Um, I don't know if I should talk about the fallout of that church yet, but at the same time, I was going to another church that I was trying to figure out what is the theology here. Like it was a Bible church, and I was like, so okay, obviously we're like reading the Bible. They call it expository, so they're like line by line going through and teaching. So they've been in the Gospel of John for I think almost 2 years. And so, I really highly respected that. Most of the time when they do their worship, probably like 99% of the time, it's hymns, and not like some current Christian music.
Do you like that
Um,
more?
Not necessarily. I mean, I
Okay.
think it's beautiful. I feel like I personally would like a blend of the two.
Mm.
Like I think there's a place for both. I think there's, something about the newer music is very most of it is very uplifting, right? And like, you want to throw your hands up and you want to like be in praise, and I love that. And I feel like the hymns are kind of a little bit more internal and not that, it's very beautiful. It's reverent, but it's just a different feeling.
Mm.
And so the teachings there are really, really powerful. They do communion, but I think they only do it the first Sunday of every month or something like that. So it's not every week. Um, and I just wasn't feeling as much, but I was learning more. Um, yeah, I'll stop there. I don't know if you want to ask me anything or if I should
Well,
like go
well,
into.
I mean, there's so many parts I can go into because I want to talk about the communion thing and the songs and anything. But I also want to ask you because you had said, and I don't know if you want to talk about this or not, but the pastors in one of them or both got more political.
The the first one that I was talking about got they are quite political. When
Because
Charlie
what
Kirk,
I want, oh, sorry.
go ahead.
Well, well, I'm wondering how you feel about that because I've like had certain experiences now where like I had mentioned at one point a while ago, like last year sometime, we went to a Catholic church where like the priest was quoting Jordan Peterson and like that was super weird. Like he like handed out a printout. Like and I didn't it wasn't that I didn't disagree with anything that he was saying, but I was just like this feels weird to do in church. And then it hasn't really been part of like politics hasn't haven't really come up at all in the Protestant church we've been attending. It's like a Baptist church, which I will go more into. But when we went to this Orthodox church, I was shocked that the priest he was like no matter what side you're on, like recently American politician said this quote. It was like about power. I don't know who it came from because I've banned myself from watching political things for the year, so that's a whole other sad thing.
Yeah.
So what I haven't banned, I'll just briefly say that I banned myself from looking up anything political and like dark political things, especially like rabbit holes, because uh, I just like I have goals for the year, and that is that those things don't contribute to any of them. And so it's just like a waste. Like it's time that I could be doing spending on other things. But it's very sad because I miss it. But what I haven't banned is other people telling me about it. So you're gonna have to fill me in before the end of today about what Candace has said recently because I'm so sad. I don't know. But one of my top priorities is social connection, so I feel like if people tell me about it, then that is great and fine. But just I can't be spending hours like on the internet in rabbit holes of what's happening. Anyway, but I think it's weird. So I don't know who the quote came from. I didn't even get to look it up because that's my band. But so it might have been Trump, it might have been somebody else, but he like said the quote and he was kind of saying how like unchristian it was. And I was just like, this also, I don't know. I just don't like when it comes into the church. But then at the same time, like when Charlie Kirk was murdered, I also felt like they should say something about it. So yeah, I'm just wondering how you feel about it coming in at all.
Yeah, it is. I think it's a fine line. Uh, Probably my opinions are changing as I go right now because since Charlie Kirk was murdered and like the way that that's all been handled is very revealing, I feel like. So before he was murdered, I was kind of like, whatever about this church talking so much about culture and whatever. It was like, I kind of just was like, so they want to address how, I mean, in some ways, how to apply the Bible to like today. Um, but yeah, I felt like they were just trying to help people with the framework and like how to like look at things. And then after Charlie Kirk was murdered and how things got handled, um, there it just got more and more political and more like also cultural, where there was like a lot of opinions being thrown around and criticisms about conspiracy theories and like, like one, they would do this throwaway sentence of like, you can ask questions, of course you should ask questions, and then do like a 5 minute monologue about how dangerous it is to ask questions.
They were
And
saying this in your church?
yes.
Wow.
And so I just really like I hit a point where I was like, this is so agitating. They did two 2 weeks in a row, they did sermons on Israel and like all the reasons why you should be a Zionist, essentially. And in good faith, I was like, I am not a Zionist. I'm also not an anti-Semite. I reject all of these labels. And so I went because, I'm like, okay, there's a lot I don't know. I'll go and learn. But there were things that were said that I was just outright just did not agree with. And I tried to address it with the pastor, but I could only do it through Instagram because we don't know each other personally and whatever. And he kind of bombarded me with all of this emotional reaction to everything Israel. And I just like I'm not a debater also, so like it's I eventually we kind of just landed at like, yeah, this is let's pray for Jesus to come back was essentially where they landed. That's another thing is that they were real heavy on the rapture, and I was like, I don't know. I'm not like opposed to the rapture, but I'm not fully.
I don't really know what even the rapture is.
It's like we would be taken up in the air by Jesus before the tribulation. Like these are all like eschatological theories, and that they do have verses that back their theories, but I'm not really convinced. I'm also it's also not it's not a salvation issue, and so I kind of am like whatever, but I felt like what was happening at that church was that it started to become a bit of a like line in the sand of like, if you're not a Zionist, I don't know, like you shouldn't be sitting in this church. Initially, they're like, it's fine, you don't agree, we don't always have to agree. But the more it was talked about, the more it was like, no, you are actually almost talking about this like a salvation issue, and you're almost like, I'm feeling like you're trying to manipulate my mind, like I'm getting indoctrinated, and I'm not interested in that.
Yeah.
And then I was watching things online where people were disagreeing with things that he was posting his own stuff. And, people were like, no, this isn't correct. And like they would correct him, and he'd either delete them or he'd come back with something really emotional, or he would tell them that they're racist. And so I was like, oh, we're doing the woke thing, like the same type of playbook as the woke left did. Like, I don't want this. And so I had to leave the church.
Oh, did you choose the other one?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not like, I'm just learning that you are meant to like become a member.
Yeah.
And so I'm not officially a member, but they did a membership class the other night, and I just did it. And like all this time I was like, what are they? What? Because they're like a Bible church, but I'm like, I'm hearing like Reformed Calvinist type of things, and I'm not that either. And so then I was like, can I be here? Is it okay for me? Like I was just like
Yeah.
trying to work my way through it. And being in the membership class, there is a lot of clarification. They give you a booklet. He didn't read everything in the booklet, so I need to go through that, because they have a list also of their verses of why they believe in the doctrines the way that they do. And so they also believe in rapture, which I was a little surprised by. Um, which, again, it's like I'm not hostile towards that idea. It's, I just think it's kind
Like
of an unusual,
no place is gonna be perfect, like a perfect fit,
right?
right? Necessarily. It's like,
Yeah.
but
But what does that mean? It's like I'm not going to fully fit, but that's part of the issue is that like when it came to Christmas, I was like I feel like I need to be in mass. And so I went back to the Christian church, right? And so
to the
and
Catholic Church, you mean?
yeah, sorry, the
To
Catholic
the,
Church.
yeah.
And with some of these teachings where I'm not convinced, I will go and hear what the Orthodox priests say about it and what the Catholic priests say about it or whatever, because I think it does matter historically how it was taught and what the traditions are. And so like, like rapture is not a thing in the traditional historical churches. And so like, I think these things are important to explore.
Yeah.
And the Bible church that I'm still currently in, they've done a couple of, I wouldn't say a full sermons, but they've made commentary on like Catholics and kind of like saying like Catholics have it wrong and whatever. And I find it all very interesting because I'm like you left the
Yeah.
traditional churches, but you're standing there pointing your finger. And like, Martin Luther apparently he practiced his faith more like a Catholic than he did like the current Protestants. And so it's all very like it's very strange.
Well, I think it's strange. We've talked about this before, but like for other people, I just feel like the the judgment or criticism from the different branches from like Protestant people to like Orthodox or Catholic and then vice versa. It's just I've seen it be pretty, I guess, like intense, but also just almost automatic. It doesn't feel like there's a lot of deeper thought there. And I've just seen on both sides, I've seen like I've had an Orthodox person be just like, oh, you're going to a Protestant church, and they're like so far away from the traditional church. And then you have the Protestants just be like, the Orthodox and the Catholic are just like entirely wrong. And I haven't been impressed with any argument from somebody that's coming at it like that because I feel like uh it's just and I don't know if this I think there's a gift sort of in coming maybe from the new age world in that sense or maybe just like the cult stuff like makes me really take a step back and just be like anything that seems really dogmatic is immediately a red flag to me because there's never, I do believe there is a right answer somewhere, like there's a truth somewhere in there, but when one branch is just like we have all of it and everybody else is wrong, I'm like, well, I don't know if that's necessarily the case. And I feel like it's important the same way that I wanted to do on this podcast from the beginning was like I want to hear people who've changed their minds about stuff because I feel like when you have been in one world and then you change your mind and you enter somewhere else, like you have a unique view on both in a way that you don't quite if you just stay in one thing and don't question it the whole time. Um, I think it's been really interesting to me to listen or read about people who have like, they were Protestant and now they're Orthodox or but it's hard to I can't find really good examples of the vice versa. Like Protestants or like Catholics or Orthodox people, prominent people who have like become Protestant and they're like this is the way. I've had a harder time finding that.
That's very telling. I'm like, is
It
that the
is, but
algorithm or is that actually just how it is?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not. I've Googled, and I was saying to my friend, I have a friend here who's pretty Protestant. Like she grew up Protestant, and she's Protestant. I don't know exactly how she would describe herself, but like she's done a lot of. She's like very interested in looking into, like why are so many people becoming Catholic and like should I become Catholic? And like she will look at that kind of stuff, but um even she said to me, she was like, yeah, it's hard to find the reverse. Like she didn't have examples off the top of her head of like, oh, go listen to this Catholic who's now a hardcore Protestant.
Yeah, I feel like I have seen something, but not a lot of
I'm
it.
sure, I mean, they must exist.
Yeah,
There's
I'm
no
like,
way that they don't exist. I just don't know who they are.
I know, I'm like, I have to check I have like a list on YouTube that, I save a lot of those things when I see them, but I don't want to watch them in that moment. And so I might have something in there, but like, to your point though, is like, I generally want to listen to people who have lived both,
Yeah.
because just standing on the outside looking in and pointing fingers, like, it just means so little. It doesn't make sense. I'm not interested in your indoctrination. I'm interested in actual experience and understanding. And so like, if you lived both and you have like a genuine criticism from living, from choosing one side over the other, like, that's very interesting to me, and it's much more compelling than, my pastor now will stand up there and say all these things about the Catholic Church. He's reading the doctrine, but I'm like, you're it's like almost like a willful misunderstanding is what it feels like, because there's such an indoctrination to be like, well, Catholics have it wrong in this way. And they never go for Orthodox, from what I've seen. They always go after the Catholic Church.
A lot of Protestants don't seem to even know that Orthodox exists to me. Like, what I really don't get, and I guess because, like, I came the other direction, sort of, like, to me, I've learned a lot. I mean, not a lot. I've read, like, some books, but, like, uh, I've been very curious about the differences between Orthodoxy and Catholicism.
Hmm.
And when I read these things, it's like really hard to convince me that Catholicism is true over Orthodoxy. Like I just, in every issue, I seem to agree with the Orthodox perspective more. And so to me, when people are I just have seen these arguments of like why you should be, if you're a Protestant, you should be Catholic. I'm like, what about Orthodox? Like, why don't you? But I think part of it is because the Orthodox Church is really hard to embrace in a way, I think. I mean, it's really, uh, and not only are there fewer of them around, but like my experience of them has not really been great, to be honest. It's just like, oh, I've been to now maybe four different Greek Orthodox churches in like the last uh year or two. Um, and growing up, I've been to a couple different ones as well because that was like my extended family. Like I was baptized Greek Orthodox, and my extended family is very Greek Orthodox. So like my grandparents had, when they died, we went to the Greek Orthodox church. Like I've done like all of that, even though that wasn't my church home growing up. Um, and but like my experience, at least of the ones that I have been to, so in the Greek Orthodox, a lot of them still do most of the sermon and like most of the whole service in Greek, which is just I can't understand Greek and I don't know what's happening. And for me at the beginning, there's some like nostalgia and connection, like there's an emotional connection to that because it's my family. But for Jordan, there's none. So he's just like, what's even happening? And like I love the sensuality of the church. Like when you go in there with the incense and the candles and the beauty, like I love that. And I feel that that is missing for me from my Protestant experiences. But um with the Greek, so with like we tried different Greek churches. We tried the Greek church here a couple times when we moved. Maybe we went three times. And it was just not good. Like, and I left feeling like I don't even feel like the people who are here for God. I feel like it's more like a Greek club that you
Hmm.
just like, you go and attend because it's like a cultural thing and you go and you like talk Greek with everyone. But it didn't feel to me like some people were like on their phones, like during the service, like scroll, like it didn't feel like everyone was there to praise God and like be connected to God. And that was just my feeling. So I don't know, maybe they were, but it didn't feel that way to me. And then at this other one, finally I was like, because then we started going. Finally, we had a service at the Greek Orthodox Church. It was they were so long too. It was like 2.5 hours we were there, and I was just, I'm like, just can't do this. It's too
There's
long.
like an austerity to it. Like you have to be willing to like be uncomfortable for long periods of time, and like, the whole give not giving into your flesh thing is like
Yeah.
so it's so unavoidable in being in doing the Orthodox.
Which I
Uh,
don't know how I feel about it because I'm like, okay, that's a nice teaching, but in reality, like, I want to look forward to going to church, not like dread going because I have to like stand there and I can't be comfortable and I can't like, I don't know. And so, so I thought that the English speaking Orthodox Church was going to be different. But oh, so we then, so everybody is caught up. I finally was like, you're right to Jordan. I was like, this isn't going to work. Like, this is just not going to work. So then we were like, well, let's try out different churches. But then my sister, uh, she was going to I guess it's like a Baptist church. Um, oh, did I freeze? Am I back?
it was like a split second.
It's so windy here. But okay. So, um, my sister was going to a Baptist church, and we were like, well, we'll like go try her church. And then we went, and it was so different, but I didn't not like it. Like, I was just kind of like, this is really different. It doesn't really feel like church to me. Like, it was like, it's like in a big auditorium, and there's a stage, and they're singing, and there's screens, and it's like, uh, but then it kind of grew on me. Like we went week after week, and I was like, I kind of like I like going here, and we met people that we really liked, and they have a lot of groups and like ways to connect with people, and I just like I made a bunch of friends, and I was just like I really like going here. Anyway, but I still don't feel like satiated. Like I kind of just feel like I'm not sure. So we went to this English Orthodox church this last weekend, and I thought it was so charming. It was very tiny, so there weren't really, so poor Jordan had to actually stand up the whole time because, like, there were only, gosh, maybe there were like 40 seats total in the whole, like, and they were just like folding chair seats in the church. Like, it was like a little chapel, kind of, and
Oh,
there were tons of people there. And so
oh,
everybody like filtered in. I've never seen anything like it, really. It was so I was enchanted. I was like and I got a chair because I'm pregnant. So I was like, I get to sit down. And so we had different experiences, but I would have been miserable if I had to stand the whole time because it was like 2 hours. But everybody was, it was packed and it was beautiful. Like the incense and all the icon images and um the candles, like real candles just everywhere. And they're kids. There's so many kids, and they were all just like running around the whole time. And like everybody, it just felt like we were like in someone's living room. And the service, I still, even though it was in English, I still didn't really know what was happening because I feel like you have to go through the whole thing to learn about what's happening. But I liked it. I wouldn't say I liked it so much that I was like, let's go here every weekend, but I was just like, there is something about this that I love. And then we left, and I was like, what did you think to Jordan? He was like, I didn't like it at all. And all that, I was like, it was so like cute. Like I felt like we were in someone's living room, and he was like, yeah. Like that, like the things that I really liked were a lot of the things he didn't like. But he was like he also did he was like if I didn't have to stand, maybe I would have like felt differently. But um yeah. But the thing is with me and Jordan, like uh he, we are coming from such different places where like he grew up in an atheist family, so he's never been to church. And so his like, I mean, I don't want to speak for him, but his like finding God and connecting to God and like it's looked we're just different people in our um relationship to it. Even though we're both on the same path, it's like he really likes the Protestant church that we've been going to, but he doesn't have any other experience of church to compare it to. You know, like he didn't grow up Catholic or whatever. Like he's never been really he hasn't had the experience of anything else. And he also is not like me in the sense of like I want to read everything and like know everything about all the history and whatever. And I think he's more just like I want to pray to God and like feel connected to God. And I don't know, I don't want to talk for him, but so it's just anyway, I forget where we started when I went into all that, but the I don't know, where did
We
why
were
did
talking about the differences of listening to somebody who was in both.
Oh yeah. Well, and well, so this is the thing too, is that I went and I talked to the pastor of the church we've been going to, which to be honest, like I don't know the how to say it. It didn't ruin it for me, but it like I wasn't satisfied with our conversation ultimately. Like he was very nice. He's a very kind man. But I went to talk to him because I was like, listen, just so you know, I still kind of like you, like this question of like, can I be here while still having these questions, like questioning these things. I was like, I really like this church. I like the people. I like coming. But I was kind of like, there's a lot of parts of Orthodoxy that really pull me to them. And I still haven't, oh, I remember why I started saying all that. Because I was like, I haven't really heard any good argument that's like convinced me um, that the Protestant approach is like fully correct. And his answers just didn't satisfy me in like an intellectual way, I guess, where it's like you were saying, like, I think he just grew up Protestant. He's always been Protestant. He went to like seminary to be a pastor for the Protestant church. He didn't really know a lot about Orthodoxy, first of all. He knew more about Catholicism, of course. But then he also kept like, he referred me to this website. Like he was like, well, like he sent me afterwards, like here's what this website, it's like
Oh
gotquestions.org.
yeah.
Have you gone? Huh. So he's like, go on gotquestions.org and like ask this question uh about these Orthodox things and like it will tell you the answer from like but like I go to this website and I'm like, this just kind of reads like I don't know how to say it. Like it's very simplistic and it's super judgmental and there's no real depth, it didn't seem. And so I go and of course now I'm me. I've been through a cult. Like I'm like, who owns this website? Who's writing these things? Like I want to know like who is deciding that this is like the thing. And it's like, well, this is a heavily Baptist Protestant website. These are all the people who are writing it. Like they have an agenda, right? And it's like, this doesn't, none of this explanation it doesn't work for me to just be like, well, the Orthodox are just wrong.
Nope.
I'm like, well, that's not a good answer. And it just felt to me like a lot of our conversation kind of boiled down to that. Like, and I don't want to blame him. Like, I just think for me personally, I need more of like a good read. Like I've explored this too, and I still kind of come up with this as my answer, and this is why. But if they haven't really explored it and they're just like, well, that's just wrong, I'm like, well, I don't know where to go from there.
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, because we both have this background of being in the New Age for a while and like being away from the churches, like we're not we're not in the indoctrination of the churches. And so, like I think there's a lot of things that they're just taught and they just accept, and it's not like a why do I believe this or why is this true, or it's not a comparison for them of, oh, Baptists say this, but like a Calvinist says this, but a Catholic says that. Like, I just think that most people aren't like that. And I often feel disappointed by that because I feel like I need like much more like rigorous conversation around these things as well. I think, you know, I know that you like actually came out of a cult, but New Age in and of itself feels like a cult to me. So like whenever I hear like certain language, I'm like, oh yeah, like and so like that kind of happens to me sometimes with the church because I'm like I'm not saying that they're culty, but what I mean is that there's such a lack of wonder sometimes that they're just like, this issue is settled. Look at Got Questions. It tells you and
Yeah.
will tell you. And like this person next to me who's been a Christian forever, they'll tell you that's just what it is. And you're like, but maybe, but there's like probably some discussion that could be had. There's could be some inquiry here. Like, I don't think it's just a settled issue that makes me feel like it's not alive anymore.
Yeah.
And so I think I get frustrated with that. I'm like in Bible studies and stuff, and I'm very aware right now when I'm in a Bible study that cannot handle questions and one that can, and I'm also not I'm not trying to come in and be a conspiracy theorist and I've got the new understanding of everything. It's just that like I don't know, sometimes they answer a question and it doesn't satisfy. And then
Yeah.
I'm like, maybe I just have to grapple with it with God. That's very possible, but it's also like maybe we need to actually look at why did you just settle on that answer?
Yeah.
And is that the same answer in like by other theologians or by other churches? Like that's what opens up the inquiry for me, where I'm just like, I can't just accept it. And so sometimes I wonder, like, if I read the full Orthodox doctrine, which at some point I plan to, like maybe I'm going to agree with it more than I agree with anything else.
Yeah.
But I don't know that I want to practice my faith the way that Orthodox churches practice. And I think it's beautiful. I think it's reverent. I mean, I've only been to the Vespers. I haven't been to the Mass. Or is it called Mass?
Oh, the Divine Liturgy.
The
I've never
Divine
been
Liturgy.
to Vespers in my life, to be honest with
So,
you.
I mean, the Vespers, the one here, it was English. It was an hour. But there's so much in Orthodoxy that feels foreign that I had to like
Mhm.
remind myself, this is Christian. This is like, I do belong here. Like, I do believe in these things. I just was like, I don't know what's going on. Even though they give you the thing, I'm reading the thing and I'm like, but it's like what they're singing. I mean, most of it was sung, and what they're singing is all, I mean, it's all like true statements, but it's not necessarily like uh verses from the Bible. So I was just like, I don't, this is very,
Well, they do that during the regular service too. They'll everything's chanted, so it's like even the Bible readings, and I think it's I love chant. I love the chanting because I think it's very beautiful. But at the same time, I don't find that I can really take it in the same way, like because they read directly from the Bible in the main, like on Sunday, they'll read
mm,
from the Bible, but they chant the reading. So it's like I don't really absorb it in the same way that I do when it's like at the Baptist church when he's just reading line by line. And usually it's on the screen so I can like I read it, you know?
yeah. I I think it's amazing, but I was like, there's so much when I could not follow when people are crossing themselves and when they're doing this other, like, looks like they're touching the ground and then crossing themselves. Like, and I was like, I have no idea what's going on. I feel very lost. I think like it was like I can appreciate it and find it all very beautiful. I loved the icons. I loved the I don't know, like the structure maybe of the ceremony of like the way that but I was so lost. And I was like I could potentially if God wants me here I'll end up here. You know, it was like that's whatever, but like I don't know that I would ever get to the point of like I want to bow and kiss all the saints and the icons and the things like that stuff. Even if I understand the purpose, I can't imagine being that person that's doing that.
Yeah, and that's so interesting to me because like to me, I can completely understand why that would feel that way. And because I grew up going to the Greek church and being around like Greek family, that was so normal to me to like I mean, Greek people just kiss everything and everybody. So like you meet like if you meet my extended family, it's like kiss, 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 kiss. Like everyone's just kissing you. So it's like you go into the church and you immediately just like cross yourself and kiss like the icons that are there and it's just like part of like it's I guess to me it's just always been part of it in such a way that it feels like home and it doesn't feel like oh I'm like worshiping this piece of wood. It just feels like this is just like part of being in the church and like being connected to the church. But that was the big issue for me with the like that was like the first and this is going back to your point of like I guess the main thing that I feel is like I like to be able to ask questions, but I can tell when I'm being judged for asking a question. And like I don't like to be judged like if I'm asking a question and then the person is kind of like there's an implication of like you don't fit here or like you're not a Christian fully or you're not like part of this if you don't like if you question this and if you don't believe this, then I start to not like that because I'm like, you should be allowed to and the other thing, like you were saying about the salvation issue, it's like I'm also like, is this that big of a deal, really? Like, I feel like I want to talk about it. And like the other thing, I mean, my friend, I was just talking to my friend the other day here and she, like, who I was saying, she has questioned a bunch and like looked into Catholicism and she still like feels very Protestant. But to me, that's like, I'm like super interested in that discussion. Like, I'm like, cool, well then you've like looked into it, like tell me more, like you know,
Mm-hmm.
like and she has a lot more background than me because she grew up in the church like fully. So I'm like I want to hear why you've still set like you've learned all this and you still think that like the Protestant church is the place for you to be. Like I want to know that. But it's like when I am talking to somebody and I feel like they're like that was what was happening with the church like because I did that same thing, we went to that same sort of member meeting as you like at our church and uh they were talking about like the main things you have to believe and I asked about icons which to me was just like a curious question because I had been reading the history of the Orthodox Church and that was actually like a debate at the beginning of the Orthodox Church like there were iconoclasts and icon whatever so it was like a big deal and I was like what do you think and the guy, it was almost like I had said, I mean, maybe he didn't see it this way, but to me it felt like I had said something like about the devil or like he was just kind of like that's idol worship. Like like it was just like we don't do that and that's like idol worship and so it's like a hard I think they call it like a closed-handed issue or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was just like you have to like you can't be worshiping icons and agree with this church, I guess, or something. And I was like, well, but it's not idol worship. But the tone like I and that was why I was like, well, I'll go talk to the pastor about it instead because I was just like it didn't feel like my question was really like he wasn't like, "Oh, that's really interesting. Let's talk about it." It was like that's a bad thing to think.
Don't even
I
think
was,
it.
I was
Don't
like,
even
well,
mention it. Don't lead people off the path. Like
But it's also, it's like, how big of a deal are these issues? Because you can't tell me, like, no one is gonna get me on board with like all my extended family who are like devout Orthodox Christians who are like kissing the icons are not actually Christian because they're idol worshiping and they just like aren't gonna, go to heaven because they're idol work. Like it's just like,
well, Protestant, it wouldn't even make sense anyway because Protestants believe once saved, always saved. So it's like even if they were doing idol worship, it's not going to take them out of being saved. So their whole argument is crazy. I just think like because I often think to myself like where are you being a hypocrite? Like you are idolizing the Bible. Like the Bible obviously is the word of God and we are meant to be reading it and we are meant to understand God and like study it and all the things. But putting it above like tradition and or history, now you have elevated it to an idol in my eyes. And so like
interesting.
I think that as much as they're pointing the finger for idol worship and for Catholics it's always about Mary, like they worship Mary. I'm not saying that there's never a person that gets that wrong or like goes too far in one direction or whatever, but like that's also true in Protestants where people just get things wrong. And so it's like I don't agree with that because I think that they have thrown all of those things away in order to elevate scripture and I'm not sure that that was appropriate. Like they didn't even have the written word back when Jesus died and rose again. It was all oral. And so like I don't know, it doesn't make it less important. I just mean that it's like we have to take into account how all these things came to be and not throw the baby out with the bathwater, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think that I guess yeah, I've been hungry for just more of that discussion and I feel like there should be freedom of discussion and questions. Like that to me would make for a very interesting and like happy church place for me to be is if we were like if that kind of questioning was just encouraged. And it's not even like I don't even expect everybody to agree on one answer at the end of the day. I just like feel like the discussion of it brings us closer to being like, well, what is the truth here? And what do, like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think there might also just be a difference uh in people, like whereas I think we have this similarity that like having that discussion and not necessarily having consensus or agreement at the end of the discussion makes me feel closer to God.
Yeah.
Whereas for some other people, it might rattle them and make them not feel closer to God, which
Mm.
is kind of crazy to me, but that's highly possible that there's just people who just it's too jarring, and like I think maybe it really is because we've always been curious that we like left our churches and went out into the world and ended up in, new age and doing all these other things. But and so that it's like it's already inherent in us to be questioning and curious and want to like I think there's a part of me that really wants to grapple. Like I want
Yeah.
to like be in this like wrestle with things. I might get settled on something and it might come up again like a year later where I'm
Yeah.
like, "Ooh, I don't know if I still think that or if that's really right and maybe I need to actually research what other people are saying as I didn't do that then." And like I just think that that also for me makes it feel alive.
Yeah.
Like and I don't I guess I would I would guess that not everybody feels that way. And I think that that's why we run into these people who like they seem to be like get nervous and or offended if you're like, well that might not be the way to sit with that thing.
Yeah. That makes so much sense to me, actually. Because, yeah, and actually, that for me has been why I think, like, I'm very satisfied with an answer of we don't know. Like that's like, and I've found that in a lot of the books I've read with Orthodoxy is like it seems like with some of the issues, at least on a surface level, from what I understand, like some of the issues between Orthodoxy and Catholicism are where like Catholicism has been like this is exactly how it is, and Orthodoxy is more like we don't know. Really? It's like a mystery. It's one of God's mysteries, and like we're not sure. And I've found that it was that book I was telling you about for everybody else. I'll put it in the notes because I don't know. It's just like the Orthodox Church or something by Timothy something. Uh, but it gave the whole history of the church and whatever. But I found myself as I was going through it, like every so often he would kind of say something about how in the church it's like basically what it boils down to is we don't know. And I'm like, that works for me.
Hmm.
Like, like if you can just be like, we don't know, like it could, like we accept that we will not know the full answer to this question. I'm like, I can work with that because I can see, and then I'm free to wonder like on my own, like what is it, or what maybe it's this, or maybe it's that, or like I'm very content in being like it's a mystery. But yeah, that makes sense to me when you say it that way, that like a lot of people would probably not feel content.
It makes people so nervous. So like when I was still in Australia, I had some, I would say, much more sort of wild questions. And they, for me, they were fun. And I had one friend at this church who, she was uh a longtime Christian. Like I think she was saved when she was like in her teens. But her and her husband loved to explore things and like really think differently. Like they were even Messianic Jews for a couple of years. Like they were like all over. And so I had said to her this question, which was, why, why do we want to live forever? Like, why do we want eternity? And like, why don't we want to just be like absorbed into God and just like no longer exist, just be with him? And she was like, oh my, I never thought of this. And she loved it. She thought it was so fun. And of course, we're never going to have an answer. But at the time, it was just like, I find this very interesting that like we want this, and she then invited me into this group, and then she at the end of our meeting was like, "Oh, let's bring your question to this group." And I was thinking, "Oh, I don't think this is the right group for this." And we did. We brought and this one woman, it made her so nervous that she like leaned in and started telling me like God is good. Like God loves you, and it was just this whole like read this and that, and she was like, "Oh, like I was like, it's okay. I'm okay. It's okay. Like I'm not actually falling apart or falling away. Like I'm good. I can ask this question and still love God and like be fully anchored in Jesus. Like I'm good."
Yeah.
Like but she got so scared for my soul that and it was clear that this is not how her mind works. And for me, I kind of knew, obviously, that this was not a good place to bring this question, but I was like, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
And then I was like, that was terrible. I don't want to ever do that again. Another woman was like, I can't, like, it just felt like her brain started to melt when she thought about it. And so it was like, yeah, I think it's it's not right for everyone. And then
Yeah.
that brings me into this whole idea of like we are a body of Christ, meaning that we're all different parts of the body, which
Mm.
is again also what I think about the many different denominations. Now, some of them I think are very heretical or culty or whatever, and so there's some that I would just not even give any time to. But I think there's a lot of valid, practices of loving Christ, following Christ, who are, they're doing it whatever way feels correct to them, or it's maybe where God has them, because we're all in a sanctification process. We don't know, what anybody else is doing, and we don't know where God is necessarily wanting to work in our lives or bring us. And so, like, I just am sometimes like, why are we so hostile towards Catholics or Orthodox or whatever? Like, they're they are believers in Christ. They are our brothers and sisters in Christ, and they are another part of the body. you want to practice this way and think this way, like it's obviously if it's not a salvation issue, it's like, okay, go ahead. And then don't then go after them as if they are not really Christian or not really saved or not really loving Jesus, like, because you don't know that. And you don't know that even about everyone in your church. And so, like, I don't know why we can't approach this as these are different parts of the body of Christ
Hmm.
and, like, just let it be. I don't know why there needs to be an argument. As much as I would love for there to be a unification, why can't the unification just be we follow Christ?
Yeah. Hmm.
You know, like it's in 1 Corinthians. You don't go around saying, I follow Apollos, I follow Paul, I follow Cephas. You say, I follow Christ.
Hmm.
He tells us. So I don't see how this is different, and I don't know how they like erase that from their brains or they like shift the way they see that and don't apply it here.
Hmm. Yeah. We did, as a fun note, we did in that, oh, I'm gonna have to plug my computer in soon. We did in that member meeting in the church. Did you do anything like this? We did. So, and well, I'll just say too that like, so this is my only Protestant, not only technically I grew up going to to a Episcopalian church, which I think is technically Anglican, which is Protestant, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, it's like it's considered Protestant, but it's very similar
But it
to
was more similar to,
Catholic.
yeah. But
Hmm.
so but this church is my own, like I've never been to a Baptist church. And so I'm also learning, like we're gonna go this weekend to like my friend actually who I met at the church we have been going to, some of our friends just left that church and they're going to a new church and we're gonna go to their new church and try it out. Because I'm realizing also like my one experience of this one Baptist church is not like how all Protestant churches are, you know? But I don't know if you, we did like, we had, they gave us a quiz to take home and it was like to discover kind of like it was like the body of Christ thing and it was like discover like what your top what your like gifts are and like what you bring to the body of Christ and like what you bring to the body of the church and so it was like you learn and I was just I was saddened by this process for me personally because it was just like so it was like you find your top gift or gifts and then they're going to tell you like how you can apply that in the church and like where you fit and like basically you can help volunteer, you can do
Hmm.
different stuff depending on what your gift is. And so if your gift is like telling people about God or praying for people, like maybe you join like the prayer team or whatever. So I take this test and I'm excited when I take it. We got to take the test home and then we had to go back for like another meeting. And I'm so excited because discernment is my top gift, it turns out, on the thing. I think I had two that tied for number one, but I don't remember now what the other one was. But discernment, I was like, that's valued here, like this like questioning and like the finding out of the truth, like they value that. It's like in the Bible. It's like, wow, I was like, this is valued, like being able to tell like what is the truth and where someone's like manipulating or lying or whatever. And it turned out like I when we went back for the next meeting, it was there wasn't a place for discernment. It was like I don't know how to it was like none of the roles that they had available were like for that gift. Do you know what I mean? Like it was
Yeah.
just like it was like you can work at the coffee bar or you can like, you know, you can give people coffee or you can do this, you can do that like and most of the other main things it was like you can join the prayer team, you can whatever. And I was like, wow, is there a gift? Maybe my other top one was it was more intellectual in some way. So it was like the I was like, are they gonna like take me in and be like, oh, this is a gift of hers and we're gonna like use her discernment and we're gonna like teach her more about like the history of the church and uh the biblical stuff and like you and it was like, no, there's no role for that anywhere. They just like didn't talk about it. It just like almost like that discernment one just didn't exist. It was like these are where the other ones fit. And then I was like, it feels like there's no like job for me. And the
Mm-hmm.
guy was like, he was like, oh, well, basically uh, not every, I don't know what he was basically like, you can use your gifts in any job that you take. So like you can serve people coffee and you're still like, you can use your gift. And I was like, no, that's not the same to me. I don't want to do like I don't want to do that. And it was like I don't know. I just it was like oh I felt let down and it might have been silly in the moment, but it was just kind of like I felt hopeful where I was like, is this really valued here? And then it was like, no, it's not really valued here. And I was like, okay, well, these seem to be the things that I'm good at, and I'm not really good at any of the other things.
I think that it's not necessarily that it's not valued. I think it's that they don't know what to do with it.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's fair. This is not like I'm not really that upset about it, but I just was in the moment.
Yeah,
Because
no,
I
I
was
mean,
like,
I've been thinking about it because I remember at the first church they did that spiritual gift test with me, and I can't remember what discipline was on. I mean, discipline. So word discernment.
discernment.
Discernment was on there for me. And I think because this is another thing, I think that because we've come from living in the deception that like we can spot things,
Yeah.
and you learn things there also that before you even have God again, and you're just like, whatever. Anyway, I felt like I was waiting for there to be like, I don't know, like a mentorship or something, where it's
Yeah.
just like, oh, there are people, like there's a group of us that's gonna
Someone's
go
gonna
and
like take me under their wing and be like,
yes,
yeah, that was what I
this
thought.
like this is good. This you're thinking like this, but also remember this, and really you should, keep the structure here and whatever. And so it's like I that did not exist there, and I at the time thought, oh, the church is so big and they're in some sort of big transition, and so that's why. But like I really haven't seen it anywhere. So hearing this, I'm like, yeah, I don't think they do that. I mean, I guess in like not that you're looking for an answer, but while I was listening, I was like, I wonder if like the best place to put discernment is actually prayer, because then like you're maybe picking up on like what somebody is going through and or needs,
Yeah.
that somebody else might not pick up on.
I guess I just thought for a moment that but the thing is, people don't really want discernment. A lot of people. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think like when I go somewhere new and I start looking at especially like the behind the scenes of how somewhere is working and I'm like, oh, this is not quite right. Or like this person is appearing to be a way, but they're not actually that way. Or like these things I start to notice, and this seems to just be a theme of my life, that like any group I become a part of, I'm like I start to not any, but like most of them, it's like the behind the scenes doesn't always look very nice, and it usually doesn't. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like this is off, or like or like this person's being dishonest. I really don't like dishonesty. And so when I see like dishonesty, that it's just kind of like, don't you want to know about it? But people don't. Like for the most part, it like makes them mad. And then
Yeah.
they're just like, you're kicked out, is
Yeah.
usually how that goes.
Yeah.
So, uh, I have to plug in my computer. So
Okay.
hold your thought, and I might actually also have to pee because. So just wait a moment. I'll cut this part out.
Okay.
Do you
Water.
remember what you were gonna say, or do you want me to?
No, but I had a question
Okay,
for you.
go ahead.
I was curious about what do you know about the Catholic Church, and would you go to a mass, and like where are you at with all of that?
Um, I don't feel like I have a very good grasp of Catholicism, to be honest. I feel like, I mean, I've read a lot about the differences between like Catholic and Orthodox and like why like the schism and why they split and all that. Um, and I will say I don't particularly feel like a big draw to it necessarily, but I'm interested in it. Like I would certainly go. Um, and I guess I just feel like if I thought I was going to become Catholic, I would just become Orthodox. Uh, I don't know. Like I haven't yet found anything that has made me be like, I guess except for the fact that becoming Catholic would be a lot more accessible.
Yeah.
In like I think I'd probably find like a better Catholic community than I could find an Orthodox community. And I bet that I mean, I haven't really spent much time in Catholic churches at all, but like, maybe maybe that would be close enough in a traditional sense to like satisfy some things without having to be like in the Orthodox church. I don't know. Like, this is what I was gonna ask you about too, is just like, because for me, like it's interesting to me that you said like at Christmas you felt like you wanted to go to Mass. Because like what I feel is like I don't feel fully satiated at the Baptist church because I feel like I really like the ritual of things, of like the sacraments. Like I like I only got to do confession one time in my life, but I loved it. Like I would love to do confession. I would love to like take communion like in the way that they do there. Like communion does not do it for me at this church. Like the way they do it is like once a month maybe or so. The church is huge, right? So there's like hundreds of people, and like they give everybody that little plastic thingy that you were saying where there's like a little bit of whatever it is, grape juice or something, and then a little piece of bread or cracker thing,
Yeah, it's a wafer.
a wafer, and it's like in a tiny plastic container, and then you just go in and they like talk and everybody is just supposed to do it, and I'm like, this I just and I want to be really clear, it's not that I believe that like if you do it that way you're like not taking communion or you're like not a proper Christian or something. I just personally need more. Like
Hmm.
I'm just like I miss I my whole life doing communion even in the Episcopalian church was like you go up and you drink from the cup and you like it's more of a thing. Like it's just not working for me to like just open this little plastic container and everybody just kind of do it at the same time. And part of me likes that in the Orthodox church. I don't know if this is how it is in the Catholic church, but they say like if you're not in good standing, like if you haven't done confession recently or you haven't like really been coming, like you shouldn't do take communion. Like part of me likes I think I like when there are some rules.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Is
I
that
mean, I think it speaks to the reverence that we should have. And I think that, um, you know, I don't know a lot about the Orthodox communion and things, but I know that in the Catholic Church, they believe, is it called transubstantiation, where it's like
yeah,
the bread
it
becomes his
really does
body.
become the body.
Yes. And
I
like,
like that.
right. And in Protestant churches,
It's
it's just a metaphor.
yeah.
And that shift is definitely I mean, it's like knowing the history, like you coming from Orthodox and I'm coming from Catholicism, it's like that doesn't quite hit the same way or land the same way. And I think maybe, for people who grew up Protestant or who have never had a church and then they become Protestant, it's like it's all quite amazing. But I
Yeah.
think that when you have a history that you were in, and also it's like I can see in the, in the Bible, like the that he wanted it to be his actual body and blood. And like how crazy and weird like God is. Like it's all so wild that to then go, oh, but not in this case. In this case, it's really just a metaphor. It's like, how, no, like I just can't. Like there's so much. You have to keep the supernatural aspect intact.
Well, and this is the part that I wonder is like, I wonder if coming another part of like being in the new age world is like you do have experiences of energy. Like you know that energy is real. Like like even if you're like, okay, in my past all of what I was experiencing was not God, right? Like there was a lot of mixed stuff and not good stuff going on. But at the same time, I think like because of different experiences, like you can't like fully just let go of that in the like and so to me it's like that deeper mystery of communion and like it becoming the body and the blood of Jesus. It's like that to me I like that. I don't want to lose that and just be like, "Oh, it's just symbolic. It's not
Mm-hmm.
really a thing." Whereas I think that like without having that experience, um, and I don't think it only has to come from the New Age world because I like a lot of what I've liked about the Orthodox um, tradition. You know how I don't know if we've talked about this before, and this was something I brought up to the pastor too, to our pastor, and uh, I don't even remember what he said, but it was the verse in the Bible that's uh, like pray without ceasing.
Mm-hmm.
So in the Orthodox Church, what that is referring to really for them, I believe, is the Jesus prayer, which is like, it's like, I think it's Lord Jesus, Son of God, have mercy on us. It's just that repeated over and over and over. And there's a book, a really old book called The Way of a Pilgrim. Have you heard of that book?
No, I'm like, I
You
need
would
to write
like
this
it. It's
down.
so short. It's like you should get it. It's very short. It's very old. And I think it comes from Russia. And they don't know who wrote it. But it was basically like a guy who was like he's like a poor man or something, but he decided to like be like because in Orthodoxy they take that verse quite literally, like pray without ceasing. A lot of the monks in the monasteries and stuff will do this with that prayer. They'll almost like sit in like a meditation and repeat this prayer over and over. And there are whole books that I have yet to read, but really want to read, written about just the Jesus prayer and what happens when you repeat this prayer over and over and over. And they describe this like heart opening kind of sensation that like it ends up you drop into your body and your whole body does the prayer
Mm.
and like your whole body then ends up like praying without ceasing and you can see this guy in this book when he like decides to do that and just like live like his life only becomes about that and he basically like wanders around um village to village or whatever and like is just constantly praying and has all these different experiences, but like there's overlap in that experience with stuff I've experienced or heard about from like more new agey stuff, like whether it's Eastern mysticism or like meditations or whatever. It's like and so if there's that in traditional Christianity, which I see a lot, there's a lot of mysticism in Orthodox Christianity, I think in Catholic too. There's just a lot of like this, I guess supernatural like stuff, and it's like that. I love that. That's interesting to me. Like I want to know what happens when you sit and do that, and like if I sit and do that, what does it feel like? And so but like in the Protestant church, like our pastor in the Baptist church, he read that verse in a sermon and he was like, it doesn't literally mean pray without ceasing. It just means like, to always be. um, whatever, praying, like to live your life in a way of prayer or something. And I was like, but traditionally, actually, it did mean that.
Mm-hmm.
So like, and I'm not even saying one is more right than the other, or like you can't have both, but to just throw out the one where they did take it literally, I'm like, I'm not good with just throwing that away. Like that's interesting to me, but it's
Yeah.
not, it wasn't very interesting to him, it seemed.
That's, yeah, and I think that's the crux of the issue for both of us. It's like being in a place where that seems to be the case. I mean, I would say my pastor now, he's very passionate. He loves the word. And I do think he has some curiosity, but I also think that he has, a Reformed Baptist way of looking at things. And I think he's resisting taking on some labels, but that's essentially, where he sits with things. And, I can appreciate that there's a lot of passion and study. Like he's actually still studying. And that's very evident. I love that. Um, but yeah, I just think like, I don't know. I don't know where I was going, but like I'm just thinking again, I'm just frustrated with the throwing away of the traditional way.
Mm-hmm.
And at least not even saying, well, we don't do this now, but this is what they used to do. Like, I don't know. You could even have like just one line like that, like where it's at least acknowledged. I find it weird, this sort of like we're just cutting it off and just we don't do it that way and we don't agree with that and this and that. And it's just like, I don't know. I was listening to it's a couple who used to be Protestant, became Catholic through their study of the history. And um, the husband was interviewing the wife because she came to Catholicism later. She was like devastated when he started to go towards Catholicism. And one of the things that she said that was really interesting and true is that the burden of proof lays on the Protestant because they're the ones who defected.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't seem to recognize that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. I think that well, or it just doesn't satisfy. I don't know. Maybe they do try to show their proof. It just I'm also not satisfied um with a lot of the I don't know. I guess with a lot of the blanket statements.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like I come to a place like, uh, because the other thing is, and I don't want to only, like, there's a lot of things I think the Protestant church, or at least just this one, does really well, and that, like, the Orthodox churches are not doing well. And, I think a lot of that is like, uh, there are many things that I actually prefer over like like in the Baptist church of just like I really prefer the people and the community. I prefer like the clarity of the sermon. Um and I like that I can be comfortable. Maybe that's not, I don't know, maybe that's not godly, but like you can go in and like you don't have to be, the other thing is like in a Greek Orthodox church, everybody's very dressed up. In this church, you can wear whatever you want. You come as you are. You wear whatever you want. I can get a hot tea and sit and drink my tea in like during while I'm listening. Like these things help me actually pay attention when I can like be comfortable. So it's like there are things that I really like and appreciate, but I kind of like come to this place where I'm like, can I do like a blend? Like, can I do both? Can I just like, because sometimes like I kind of like that I like attending the Protestant church. And what the Protestant church does for me too is it makes me want to go. Like I'm not like, oh, I'm gonna be uncomfortable for 2.5 hours and like, not talk to anyone. Like it's like the best thing about this church that we've been going to has been like we both look forward to going to church. We're like, ooh, we get to go to church tomorrow. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like fun. And we see people and we like maybe cry or just like we sing and we just it's like it's I feel happy to go. And that opens up in me more of a desire to like read the Bible and like learn and connect with God and pray and like all this stuff. And so, um, but then I told you, like, I miss like the sacrament. Like, I'm kind of like, can I go to the Orthodox church and like get, just do these things there? And technically I can because I was baptized into it. So like I think there's probably a way if I like went and started doing confession or I started doing like I could kind of come in good standing and do what I wanted maybe. But like Jordan couldn't. And
Yeah.
then there's like we're having a baby, right? What's the baby? What will the baby be baptized? Uh I I really can't uh I can't quite get myself like in the way they do baptism in the Protestant church. And maybe it's different at each one. And I'm not, again, like, I'm not discounting it. I'm not saying it's wrong or that, like, people can't have incredible experiences. I know that they do. And I think those experiences are all valid. Just for me personally, I don't think I could just, I don't know if it would feel right for me to like get in the tub and just be like, oh, woohoo, or like in a pool and it's just like, I'm baptized now. Like part of me likes that like if Jordan were to get baptized in the Orthodox Church, he'd have to like go through a whole year of like something and like learn all that and like be like you're brought in and then it's like a ritual. It's not just being like, I believe in Jesus now and I'm saved and here's the tub and hooray, now you're saved forever. Like, I don't know, I just don't. It, I want to kind of just be able to be like, yes, I'll do. Like, when we first started going to this church, I was like, maybe I'll get baptized in this. But I feel like I'm just like on the surface of something. I'm not like in. And I want to
Mm.
feel like the depth more.
Mm.
And maybe I would feel that at a different Protestant church. I don't know.
Possibly. I mean, that is definitely, it's good that you're going to explore that because, I was even thinking different Orthodox churches. I mean, you said you went to a few different ones, but I was thinking even like, is there a difference between like Greek and Eastern Orthodox? I mean, I heard some Orthodox priests talking about like not to do the Coptic one, which I
Yeah.
don't know if that was like, is that like Mormonism to Christianity? Like, I don't know what that is, but I was like,
Yeah.
I'll listen, whatever. But, that in Catholicism, I didn't realize that there are a few different ones. I don't think that there's options really here where I am,
Well,
but
there's not here. That's the other thing. Like, it's
yeah.
just, there's not really that many Orthodox churches. That's why I was saying to you, like, I feel like, if I were to explore Catholic churches, I would have tons to choose from.
Mm, mm.
I could go probably to 10 different ones that are all in probably like a 20, 30-minute drive and easily and just like try them all out.
Yeah, it's
Whereas, like, there are
interesting.
two Orthodox churches within a half an hour.
Yeah, there's
Maybe
only like
there's another, maybe there's a third that is like a Coptic. Is that like Egyptian or something? It's like
I
a,
can't remember what they said about it, but it was just like that's a no.
yeah.
It's like okay.
Yeah, I do know that it's not going to be, it's not accepted or something. It's not the same.
Yeah,
Uh,
there's three Catholic churches here, and I think there's two or three Orthodox. One of them is Coptic, I think. Um, I think all of the Catholic churches are Roman Catholic. I was curious what an Eastern Catholic looks like.
well,
Um, like
oh,
I went to a mass last weekend in because the Father Dan Rehill is an exorcist priest. And I've
oh
heard
yeah,
him
you
on
mentioned him.
podcasts and he's the head of a church an hour away from me or 45 minutes away from me. And so I've been curious. I mean, I've listened to his homilies before. He's great in an interview. I think he's a great like exorcist, but in terms of like delivering a homily, like it's not overly like compelling or anything like that. But I was very curious, and I found it interesting that some of the women in the church were like they wore the head covering. When they did communion, you were on your knees And, all the other churches I've been in really, like, I know that that exists, but basically all the Catholic masses I've been in, we stand and, you put it in your hand. And so it was like there were just these little differences that I was like, I wonder what is going on. And then me and a friend were trying to like research, like, where did he come from? It still seems to be considered Roman Catholic and not Eastern, but it seems a little bit more Eastern and whatever. I don't think it's my church home. Um, but yeah, I kind of wanted to go back. Sorry, I keep taking us into other directions. I have a lot of different thoughts happening. But I wanted to come back to what you were saying about like what is done right by these churches and what's working and not working in, well, I think we talked about what doesn't work, but like I like the Protestant churches because also it does feel accessible. I also feel excited to go. I feel like I might have an emotional response to worship or the sermon or whatever, and like that feels really, that in and of itself feels holy. Like I feel like the spirit is there when that's happening, and so like I'm very attracted to that. The music feels more melodic, and so in that way feels more accessible to me and just nicer to my ear, and I like to be able to sing along. The words are on the screen. Like I do like all of those things. Um, and then when it comes to mass, I can't really speak to the Orthodox because I've only been to the Vespers, but when it comes to mass, like there is like that reverence that comes with like there's a whole structure here
Yeah.
and there's a whole thing you have to follow. And if like you're going to participate in this church, you do have to go through classes. And I was even like, do I need to do the classes again, even though I'm considered always a Catholic, just to refresh? Because it used to be like a call and response type thing of like they would say something and you'd say, and also with you, but they changed it. I don't know when they changed it. It's like, and with your spirit. And I'm like, every time it's like getting me.
Yeah, that's happening in the Orthodox Church too, and
Okay. I heard
it
it.
also gets me. I don't know why. I knew that happened, but I thought it was only a Catholic thing. But it's been happening in all the Orthodox services I've been to.
That's really interesting because I wanted to know when I went to the Vespers, there was a point where you said, and with your spirit. And then I was like, whoa, did they change that? Or were they always that? And then the Catholics then adopted that? Like, there's
No,
something here.
they changed it. It used to always be and also with you. Uh, so I don't know. I don't know actually. I just don't really know.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the traditional church is having a hierarchy and having some kind of barrier to entry where you really need to, get into the teachings in a real in-depth way. Like I do like that. And also I find that it's a double-edged sword because then it's also a way to keep people out. I like that Protestants churches are like, come, like you can just come as you are and you've never known anything and you can understand and you can get into it and you can be like fully embraced in all of that. And I do think that they do community way better than the traditional churches do. I think, all of the groups that they put together in Bible studies, and so that you're really like you are actually consistently doing that. I feel like there's something that happens with Catholics where it really just becomes, it's just like a cultural thing. I think it's similar to what you were talking about. You just go for community, but you're not really in a group outside of that. You're not really doing Bible study together. You're just showing up at church every Sunday and then you carry on with the rest of your life and you don't really think about it otherwise. And that's not really okay for me. Like I'm not going to live like that. And I don't know how to be around that where it's just like, okay, I've done my hour and
Yeah.
I'm out.
Yeah. It feels that way to me. And how many I mean, I know so many people who were exactly that way growing up. I mean, my family was that way too, but it was just like I know a lot of Catholics who are like we're Catholic, but it's like you don't do anything other than you just like attend church and like are there, but are you even really there? Like, are you even really like feeling things and participating? Or are you just like standing there, or like sitting there or whatever? But I also feel that I think for me, because I agree with like I've heard on the Protestant side people say like, well, there shouldn't be, like, they don't like the priest and like the hierarchy and there being like people between you and God, or like, um, like there being like you have to go through these things in order. Oh, did I freeze again?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Or you have to go through these things in order to like be able to participate, like they don't like those kind of rules. But I think for me it comes from the cult experience, is that like I feel like part of what I took from that is like sometimes it's good when they're like sometimes rules are there for a reason. And
Mm.
like sometimes like it it should matter. Like there should be some tradition and structure and guidance. Because if you just have anyone who can claim anything, like anyone can start a church and anyone can be in charge of their church, and like I think I agree with what you're saying that it's like a double-edged sword, but I think I feel more drawn to the tradition because I feel safer almost in
Yeah.
it. Like it's
Hmm.
just like, and with this church that we've been going to, a thing that had come up, and I don't know, this might not be a thing with all Protestant churches, or who knows, but like with this particular church, like who started it was just the pastor and his family. And so like what was funny to me was in that membership meeting that we did, there was a guy next to me, a couple older, and the guy was like, we got to ask questions, and the guy was like, uh, who is the pastor accountable to? And they were like, the elders. Like there's a group of elders. And they were like, he was like, well, who chooses the elders? And they were like, the pastor. And I'm like, listen, me sitting there listening to this is just like, it's not, it's a red flag. It's not like a red flag that's like, I won't go to this church anymore red flag, but it is like a culty kind of flag to me where it's like, there isn't, like, keep in mind, like, what I say to myself is like, Demetra, just keep in the back of your mind, there's no accountability happening here.
Mm.
There's no one to go to. Like, no one's really like, you just have to trust that this guy is a good guy, and maybe he is and maybe he isn't, or maybe he's a great guy and he also has some flaws, but like no one's really pointing them out because he's in charge of the people around him. And so like, like you just at least, and obviously like with priests in all the churches, them being accountable to someone doesn't necessarily mean that they're being good people either. But like I guess at least there is like that structure of like, we do, like there is someone higher up to kind of go to, or like I don't know. It doesn't work perfectly anyway, so maybe it's not even a good argument, but like I don't know. Um I don't know how to quite get on board with like anyone can just decide they're gonna become a pastor and start a church, and like I kind of appoint myself. I mean, I know you go to seminary or whatever, but it's kind of like I appoint, you don't have to.
No. So that pastor that of the church that I left never went to seminary.
Oh,
So apparently that's not even
he
a
just
barrier to
appointed
entry
himself
either.
a pastor.
I don't
See,
remember his pathway, but like he didn't go to seminary.
so that's like where you just kind of, I feel like it's like you more easily can get into trouble, where it's like maybe you won't, maybe this person is just a genuinely good person. I mean, like I don't like rules either. Like, like when I have like with my business, when I was coaching people, like I don't want to be accountable to someone and have somebody else deciding like you're ethical or you're not ethical or whatever. Like I don't like it. But I also now have, I think, a bit more of a respect for like when it's there. I don't know. It's just, maybe I don't know one way or the other, but it's just a thing I think about.
Yeah. I mean, I think, as you're talking, I'm thinking one of my issues with Catholic Church growing up was, why am I talking to this priest? Like, why would I have to confess to him? I think that that's crazy. I still take issue with that. And it's not to say that because it's actually wrong, like it might just be like the rebellion in me. I don't, I, I don't believe that my relationship with Jesus has some sort of contingency on like the priest or the church or whatever. And I can go through their protocols and their ways, but it does not that doesn't fully sit right with me at this particular moment in time either. And I'm glad it's there, like I like what you're talking about, where there's like it's like guardrails. There's reasons for these things, and there's like, yeah, they're still human, so they're not gonna be perfect even with all of these things in place. But there's something to be said for tradition being carried forward for so many years, that there's something there that even if I have a rebellion to it, it doesn't mean that it's actually wrong, or um, that there's something wrong with it or whatever. And so like yeah, I don't know. I'm like in a whole grappling with that stuff myself, because I do have a reverence for it. And I think because I, you know, not only left the church, but then I left this country, and I was like very much like, I would say, propagandized into like, I'm not going to continue any traditions. I want to throw everything away. It was like I just like cut myself off at the roots, and it was like, any desire to have a kid, I don't want to have a kid. Like, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to fight against my own biology. It was just like there was a very um strong and consistent sort of thing in me for so long to reject my own tradition, my own roots, and my own like fundamental body and spirit and all the things. And so like I think because of coming back to Christ and seeing the error of that, it has also given me a lot more desire for preservation of history and tradition, and like, being conservative has become something that makes more sense to me, like when I think about my life and how and what I did, and I'm
Yeah.
like so thankful that there are people who have spent their lives like really rooted in a tradition and really holding that down, because I think without it we would be like very lost. And so like
Mhm.
while I still have my fight going on of like, do I believe in the Pope, or do I believe in a council like the Orthodox have? Like, I trust that God is going to put me wherever I'm supposed to be, but I'm at a point now where I'm like, I would never want to talk badly of those churches, and I get mad that the Protestants have the gall to do it.
Mm.
I'm just like, leave it alone, carry on teaching the Bible, and let God do what he's going to do in people's lives. Like, if you want to go after people who don't yet know Christ.
Mm.
Like that it's just not, I don't know. I had like 15 things I was going to say, and all of it just crashed down.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I agree with you. Um I don't know what I was gonna say either. I was gonna say something about the traditional church. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm wondering now, being an adult, exploring churches and like recognizing that there's membership in a church.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I didn't know this. And I'm like, of course there would have been. There was a church that we were a part of, and that's what I went through all my sacraments in and whatever. But it just didn't occur to me. And so now it's like, oh, I have to choose where I'm going to plant myself and like put allegiance and
Yeah. Well, you don't
maybe
really
tithe.
have to, right? But you kind of want
I
to.
don't have to, but I think that like, I don't know, to be a member and to be more fully involved.
Yeah.
I do think, like we were talking about, there are energies of things, and I think that like being fully committed would potentially open up some, I don't know, some deeper relationships and like deeper understanding, maybe even
Yeah.
of the way to move through all of these questions. Just even from moving to the two churches to the one, it was like a very people didn't necessarily know or remember that I was going to two churches, but when I like stopped going to the other one, something happened where people were like more relaxed with me and
Mm.
like more open and more, oh, you're here, like, and I was just like, this is so, I've been here the whole time, but
Yeah.
it suddenly something different was happening. And so
Yeah.
I'm wondering if there's like kind of another layer of that in becoming a member. Plus, if I'm a member, it's like, offering service or, kind of making the agreement to go through life with people in this church, you
Yeah.
know.
Well, I think that feels good. It feels good to just like be like I'm committed to this one place. This is like where I put my energy. I think that does matter. I was gonna ask you, I remember what I was gonna ask is about confession. Uh, did you, when you were growing up, did you ever like it and have a good experience with it, or was it all like, did you not? You hated it.
I don't think I ever liked confession. I
Like it
had
never felt good. So
no.
this is really, so it's, for me, like I only did confession once when I was in that I went as a teenager to Greece through the Orthodox Church. It was like a camp for 3 weeks. We went to Greece and it was a church camp, but it was the best. Even though I didn't grow up in the Greek church, I just loved it because we prayed before every meal. Like it was so like integrated, like prayer and church into our life, and I was so happy. I was like probably the happiest time I had as a teenager was during that camp.
Oh.
And but we did confession at the end, and I'd never done confession, and I didn't really want to do confession, but I did confession, and I felt so like good afterwards, like just so clear. And I wonder if part of this is like I didn't grow up with any of that like the shame around it or like oh you're like bad and so you have to do this or you're not, whatever. Like I never got any narrative of that. So for me it was like I can go and just like say all these things that I've done and now I feel like clear of them. And I felt so happy and like uplifted. And I've found myself recently like remembering that and wanting to go do that. But I don't know if this is incorrect. Like, even in the Orthodox Church, I'm not sure how they relate to it. Like you were saying, like, with the priest, like, because I don't, if I were to go do that now, I wouldn't view it as like, oh, I need this priest to sort of like be the in between me and God, like, or I need this priest to like be the authority here. Like to me, I would relate to it more as just, this is a person whose job it is to just witness me doing this with God. And I feel like in my past experiences with more like new agey stuff with like say for breath work or something for example, like I know that I can always go deeper into something more like energy based or spiritual or whatever when there's another person there witnessing. Like it just feels something happens, I think, energetically where it's like somebody else is there kind of holding you, you can go deeper. And so I feel like for me, that's what that would feel like is like this guy is here. I don't really care about like who he is as a person or whatever. Like I'm not seeing him as even necessarily above me, but it's just like this person's here to help me like really go deep into this. Like I think it would feel good. I want to go do it. I don't
Yeah.
really know how to do it. I don't, I did it when I was 16, but I feel like I would feel really good afterwards.
Well, I think you have to follow that. But I was going to
Yeah.
say, when two or more are gathered, I am there, right? So that
Yeah.
is in the Bible that there is something that's happening when you're together. I myself don't know if I can shift myself out of like them being an authority, even though like because I have a lot of resistance to that in general because I'm just like, this friend of mine was like, you became religious. And I was like, I mean, you could call it that, but like, I love Jesus Christ. He is my husband. He's my Lord and Savior. He's the center of my life. And the Bible is his book. I'm not married to a church, I'm married to him. And like, he's the one who saved me. And so I have that, but because I have my history with the Catholic Church, I don't know if I would be able to go in there and be like, they're not the authority. They're just listening and witnessing. I feel like I would fall into like my old posture, like my old way with that. But they always give also like prescriptive prayers. Is that what they do in Orthodoxy as well?
I don't know.
Okay.
When I don't even really remember how it was when I was 16. I'm pretty sure I just sat down and told him all the bad things that I had done, which were a
Mm,
lot at that age. I was like, I get drunk all the time with my friends. Like I was like I told him a bunch of stuff that I don't remember what I said,
yeah.
but and so I don't remember if maybe he like did any prayers with me. I do remember that after confession, I felt so great, and I had felt so great from the whole camp that I asked this guy, he was young, the priest. I asked him like I was like, "How do you know?" I was like, "There's so many different religions." And like, how do you know that Orthodox Christianity is the right one, like the correct one? And he couldn't really, like, I saw it in his face that he couldn't really give me a real answer. And what he said, I remember this part very clearly because it was a very important question to me because I was kind of like, I'm almost sold on this. Like, this has been so wonderful. And I was like, but how do you know that this is like the right one, the right religion, the right, like, and he was like, well, I've tried them all out and this is like, I decided like this is the right one. And I was like, I don't believe you.
Yeah,
Like it
that
just I was like 16 years old and I was just like, that doesn't sound true to me at all.
that's not very compelling.
And so I left kind of being like, I don't, like, how can I?
Well, it's like if he's not sure and he just kind of it seems like he just randomly decided that this one was
Well, he just
it.
said, like, I've tried out all the religions
And I
and,
just
like,
ended up
this is
here. I don't know.
this is the correct, like, I was just like, that doesn't work for me. Even at 16, I was just like, I don't, I can't get on board. And
Yeah.
so I don't, I went home and then no one was going to church around me. And I was just like, whatever,
Yeah, I kind
back
of
to my normal life.
I wonder what life would have been like had we'd been talking about God in the house, like what would that have brought out? Because I think that there was always a desire for it and a not knowing how to do that. But going back to confession, like I mean, my first confession you do in the Catholic Church when you're like 7.
Oh,
And, my mom was Lutheran growing up. And so, like, she hated that at 7 you're going for confession. Like, she's like, you're too young to know you're doing anything wrong and this and that. I don't know. Theologically, I don't know if that's really the right thought process, but
yeah.
I can understand as a mom why she was thinking that. And also, like, at that age, I remember being terrified going in there and not knowing what to say. And so I think I was like, oh, I lied about brushing my teeth the other night and I didn't brush my teeth.
Yeah.
It was like I had no idea what to say and it was so scary. And I remember like I think I ended up just like rambling because I didn't know exactly what was wrong about what I was doing.
Yeah.
And when I did come out, like one of the kids I think said like, God, you were in there for a long time. And I was like, I had no idea. I think I was just stammering through, just like, like I didn't like when my brother said this thing. Like, I had no idea really what it meant. And
Yeah.
so I think having that as like my first experience of confession, it didn't really
Well, that would
then,
be terrible,
yeah,
but
it
it
didn't
sounds
change
horrible.
into something later where it was like, oh, this is good, like I didn't do it enough for one. And, I just, obviously after that, you don't really feel like compelled to want to go do that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I understood even, you give me prayers to say, it's like, okay, four Hail Marys and five Our Fathers. And okay, does that work? Like at the time, it was just like, what? All right,
Yeah.
you know.
It's tricky. I mean, I'm sure that like the deeper I went into the ways that the Orthodox Church is like run, or like the ways sacraments are done, I probably would have more issue with certain things, Like I don't know, like even with that, I think that the Catholics do shame a lot more than the Orthodox Church does. But like I don't know, I'm like I don't want my children going to confession at 7.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
don't know, like there's certain things where it's just like I don't
Doesn't the
think that
Orthodox Church
works.
also do, like, when you get baptized, you're also basically like confirmed and all the things all in one?
Yeah, you don't go through confirmation in an
Yeah, I
Orthodox
thought
church.
that like whatever the sacraments were, it's like it's all at one time when
Well,
you're a baby.
yeah, I don't they do like chrismation? Is that how it's said? Where you like I don't know, there's like I think there's 3 things. You can't quote me. I don't know on this for sure, but like that happened when you're a baby where like you're baptized, you're anointed with like oil or something, and you're like welcomed into the church. But it's supposed to be more of like a like Orthodox, I think, do not believe that like babies are like uh you're born so sinful, and like the baptism is cleansing the dirty baby. Like it I think what I've heard is like in Catholicism, like say the baby died before they become baptized, they're like not going to heaven. In Orthodoxy, it's not that way. They don't believe that children like that your original sin is different in the Catholic and the Orthodox Church. And so um the baptism, I believe, in the Orthodox Church, I still have this question of like, I don't really even get why they do it since they don't really believe that. But it seems to be part of the whole process of like being welcomed into Christ and like into the church.
Hmm.
Um, but it's really I have to make some decisions for us because I'm just kind of like part of me just wants our baby to be baptized in an Orthodox church because I was. And also because, like, I'm like, what if we do become Orthodox later
Mm-hmm.
on? It just feels like important in some way.
Is it possible, like, are the priests in the Orthodox Church like accessible to have a meeting with them to say,
Yeah, I'm gonna
I'm not fully ready to say I'm like all in on Orthodoxy, but also I want my baby to be baptized because it seems like that might be the trajectory, and I don't, I want to keep my baby protected, and
yeah.
I don't
I'm
know.
gonna I want to have a meeting with the priest of the church that we just went to, and basically ask him those things. And I think that he'll be quite open. I don't know the rules, but like I know that as a person, he'll be probably good to talk to because he used to be Protestant. I found his, like, I
Oh,
stalked him online and I saw that in his bio somewhere. It said that he grew up Protestant and now then he became Orthodox and now he's an Orthodox priest. And so I'm like, I want to talk to this.
yes.
Like, this would be a good person to talk to. So yeah, I just don't know.
I'm like, can you do
Like,
that on a podcast so I can hear it?
maybe one day. I really wanted to do that at the beginning of the podcast. I wanted to get Orthodox, like to ask some Orthodox priests to be on and stuff so I could ask them questions.
Yeah.
There's still so many things like that that I want to do, but I have a very limited amount of energy and
Yeah.
capacity right now
Yeah.
that is going to a lot of other things. So
Well, you have to
it's just
prioritize making organs
and
and
things
a
the
whole
or
person.
yeah. But it's also just, like we in moving to a new country, there's still so much bureaucratic stuff that it's like I can't even tell you the amount of mental annoyance on my mind of just like Jordan's driver's license and like this immigration thing and now immigration needs and we're applying for a green card and we need this and like it's just like I don't want to do any of that right now because I also am gonna have a baby and so I need to like it's just like there's too many places that my energy's going but I am curious in doing that because like I like having these conversations and I would like to have them with even more people who like know a lot more than me. Like
Mm-hmm.
they're just like so in one thing or like they've been in one thing or another or they whatever. Just like um I it's just so interesting to me to explore all of that.
So I want to ask you if we're both aware that there's no perfect church. Everyone always says it, but it's also hard not to be looking for that. And like, I think that because like I don't know I don't exactly know what to strive for other than like strong biblical teaching, which is where I'm at now. Like that church is very strong in their teaching. I'm still like waiting to feel like at home, and I don't feel at home, and I don't know if that's just like an immaturity thing and I just need to, commit and just be there and whatever, or if God is doing something and that's why I still want to go to mass and that's why I want to explore the Orthodox Church and like I shouldn't be a member there because like God's still doing a work on this with me. And so I'm not sure how to find my way of like, okay, this is where I'm going to be. Because I thought it was that other church and then
Yeah.
they like completely flipped, right? And I feel like, just a throwback for a second, it's like I feel like there's something with both of us like striving for truth. You reveal fraudulent kind of stuff accidentally along the
Yeah.
way. And so like that happened there. And now I'm like, I don't know because I don't know how to fully commit myself to the Catholic Church again, and I don't know how to fully commit myself to where I am. And I'm wondering, like, do you have some sort of parameters, or are you waiting for a feeling, or like, what do you think will be the way that you know where you want to like root yourself in terms of a church?
That's a good question. I think that the main way that I feel right now is that I don't feel a rush. Like I don't feel a sense of like I have to figure it out and like I have to know because it just feels like to me like I'm I can be kind of content where I am and still explore. Like I don't feel a rush to like root in one place and just be like, okay, I'm just here now. Because I just think that like in that I told you that other book, what is it called? Surprised by Christ. It's like that guy, it's his memoir, but he was Protestant and then became Orthodox eventually and became like an Orthodox priest. But what I thought was so interesting about his story, like it wasn't until he was like in his 40s or something that he decided to become Orthodox. And so even though that's like his whole life now and he's like an Orthodox priest, he wasn't like he like found I think he found Jesus when he was like a teenager and then he spent all these years just like in the Protestant church. Like I guess I just don't think there's a wrong answer. And so I
Mm-hmm.
don't feel like I don't buy into like, oh, if I don't like I'm not gonna be go to heaven if I don't find the right one. Like I don't think that. And so I feel like the way I feel right now is just kind of like content. Like I like for now, I guess I just think of things in terms of like for now. Like I'm like for now I like going to where we've been going. Although now some stuff is coming up where I'm like maybe we'll try out, we'll try out this other Protestant church and we'll just kind of like let I feel kind of content to like be led. Like I'm just
Mm,
like, well, now this is coming up, so I guess we'll just see this, like what this is like. And like I went to the Orthodox church, but that wasn't really it. And I want to talk to the priest, but I don't really feel like a pressure. I feel like, I don't know, I was saying to Jordan the other day, like, I feel like we have time, and that for me, it feels like maybe that will become more important once we have like a toddler, where it's like, I feel like it would be better to give a child more consistency of like, this is the place where, like, this is church. This is like a
hmm
place where we go, and this is like our church. But for now, it feels kind of like, let's just keep exploring.
hmm Yeah. I appreciate that about you because then I'm like, why do I have pressure on myself? I feel pressure. And I think part of it is because they just did a membership class and it's like, no, there's other steps. Obviously don't have to become a member, but it's like now I'm faced with it where I'm like, oh, am I just gonna like learn the things, have a conversation and be like, no, which is entirely possible, but like I I think also from being unsettled and uprooted, speaking of visa stuff, living overseas where you're like never really fully rooted. And like I lived that way for so many years and I'm so over it. I want to just plant my feet and have roots. And I'm also just like, I don't think I can yet because it's not clear. Like it was clear for me that I was supposed to live where I'm living and I had to wait 9 months to figure that out for like God to make that so clear. But even that, it's like I'm renting, and like I want to buy something, but also I want to find someone to do life with and have a husband. And so I'm like, do I want to buy something before that happens? And do I want to rely on that happening? Like it becomes like so many things are unsettled. I want to settle something. It's like I want to land a plane, but
Yeah.
maybe I'm really not supposed to because I don't know yet. And so I'm just curious, like like how do people make these decisions about where they're going to plant themselves? And I think there are a lot of people who don't think a lot about it.
Yeah.
Um, but knowing that you think a lot about these kinds of things, it was like, I wonder what are you
Yeah. It's an
looking?
interesting thing. It's, well, part of me wonders for you, like, uh, have you found community in any of these places that you really like? Because I think, like, part of me not really minding all that is like, my main purpose in us moving here specifically was to be near my sister. And so it was like when we sat down and kind of looked at our life, this was now like a little over a year ago, we just kind of sat down and we were just like, what are we doing? Like, what do we actually value? What do we want? And what we came down to as the top priority was just like people. Like it was just like I feel like where we lived and the house that we bought was like I was prioritizing other things. Like I was like, well, this is the most beautiful place I've ever been. And like I want to live in like a really beautiful place and look like the environment mattered so much to me. And but we really weren't finding like community where we were. It was just not people that were aligned with us really. And part of that was like I think we've changed too. But anyway, but it was like when we moved, it was like we were gonna move anywhere and just like start over and like I was looking still more at the environment and then eventually it came down to I was just like actually what I really care about is being around people that I love.
Hmm.
And so then I was like, well, I just want to go. Let's like we love my sister's family. We're so like anytime we were seeing them like once a year and every time we would hang out with them it'd be like for a week and then we'd leave and be like, "Oh, this is so sad. Why we never get to see them." It's like, "Well, why don't we just go live where they are?"
Hmm.
And So now we're like close to my sister, we're close to my dad, and not super close to my dad, but a lot closer. And the other big thing has been like we've surprisingly made friends so quickly in the churches. And so like and I mean, I hope this is the case, but like it doesn't feel so far that those friendships are contingent on like being at the same church. Like I think and I hope that like they survive outside of that. Like it doesn't really feel like those relationships are like church dependent.
Mm-hmm.
And so if as we just form more relationships, I'm like that makes me feel rooted here. So it's like the church, I want to have that church community and feel like this is our church and this is like our community, but I don't feel as rushed maybe. So I wonder, do you have that sense?
Yeah, I mean I have friends in both of the churches that I was attending. The the church I'm in now, it's like there are friends that I have there that I know for sure is not dependent on me going to that church. Um, and then there's a different kind of culture, I would say, in that church where people are a little bit more buttoned up, they're a little bit more reserved. So I think they do take longer to warm up, and they have to see me so many times to feel more at ease or whatever. And I think that's, normal with some people. But like, I would say with the other church that I had to leave, those people, everything felt more natural and like more just easy to just drop in with people. And at the same time, I would say that a lot of those people are a bit older than me. They're like in grandparent phase of life, and it's really sweet. And like we'll have lunch or something like that, and like I really love them, but the I'm not feeling like I'm not feeling like fully like held or anchored in those friendships. And I do, I have a couple of friends who are just not they don't have anything to do with the churches. Um, and it's like just everything takes time, like to get closer to people. I was living overseas where, I was living amongst other expats. So everyone is outside of their comfort zone in a certain way. And then the friendships and everything happened faster, you know?
Mm.
And so here I'm in this whole thing of like, oh, it happens at different paces for different people, of course, but it's just slower in general than what I've been used to for so many years.
Mm.
And so, in some cases, I'm just like, I'm not seeing people enough, or I don't know how to deepen some of the friendships, and so it's like, I don't think any of them are dependent on the church,
Mm.
really. But there would probably be people that fell away, like I
Yeah.
really wouldn't see unless I went to church.
I guess I don't feel like you can ever really make the wrong choice.
Yeah.
Like I feel like how do you know that like if you feel like you want to buy a house, how do you know that like you wouldn't find your husband like through your realtor buying the house?
Right.
Like you just like don't know ever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm still moving in that direction. It's like I'm not doing it, but it's
Yeah.
like just thinking about how everything looks and feels and what I'm driving towards, but what's God's plan, and trying to make sure that I'm not getting out ahead of him. Like, what is it that he's wanting me to do, and trying to stay obedient and, like, but sometimes I'm like, I don't know, am I following my own thing? And I just keep praying that, like, whatever it is I want in my heart, please make sure that it's like, I only want what you want, because I don't want to be going outside of that. Like,
Well, there is that thing where like I notice that I start to get stressed when like it feels like I start to make myself God more than
mm,
like I start to kind of be like I'm in charge of figuring it out. Like and in any area of life. Like if I start to get like I have to figure out what's happening here so that I like do the right thing and like I make the right like I make the choice God wants me to make or what like it starts to feel like I put there's like then I've stopped being in surrender, sort of. But it's
Mm-hmm.
hard because it just happens sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's our nature.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. I
I don't
pray
know.
about your husband. I'm like, I pray a bunch. I'm like, I pray Kristen will find her husband.
Thank you.
Ah.
I'm always like, God, please don't make me go on the apps, but if you want to make me go on the apps, like please like make it so clear like that I have to and who to choose because like I don't know, in reality it's like I want to meet him out in the world and I want the sort of traditional thing of like he sees me or he hears my voice or something where he's just like I need to know her. I do you know what I mean? Like
Oh, yeah,
I
me
want
either.
that. I want him to recognize me essentially. Like,
No,
you know, so I've been praying for that.
I think you have to give up on that. Sorry. I think I think you I just feel like whenever we're like, I want this thing, but I want it in my like certain way, it just doesn't really work. I think it's like I don't know. I don't think so. I
I
think
just
you
don't know what to do. I mean, I don't, the app feels like I'm like not made for that. And I
have
have
you tried
tried.
going on an app and being like super clear about what you're
Yes.
looking for? Yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't work.
Mm, I mean, sometimes, but I feel like a lot of the time, like guys are not even really reading the things. And so
Oh,
then you kind of still have to go through
they're
this
just
process
swiping.
of trying to see where they're at with stuff. And, you know, a lot of the time, like they might match with you, but then they don't ask you anything. They won't talk, you know, they don't have a conversation or they start a conversation, but then I'm just asking questions because they've stopped being curious. And I try to leave space for it. And they just,
Have you tried a more mature version of like it like Match.com or something?
I have thought about it. I mean, maybe like a month ago, I put myself onto Facebook because I was hearing that people were having better luck there. So Facebook dating is a thing, and I don't know, I just in the first few days it's like it's such a time sink because you're like trying to find matches and then you might match and then you're like waiting for them to respond and um you know, there was one guy who I was chatting with, but he just like literally I think he asked me one thing and then it was like he just talked about himself and then I was like trying to initiate more conversation and he would just keep talking about himself and he never really came to me with anything and then the conversation just dropped out. I got bored, but I did try again the next day to talk to him and then he just disappeared and I was like, yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of them also are like waiting to be like entertained and I'm just like, I want to have a conversation. Like, I'm not an entertainer. I'm not going to perform, you know, like, I
Maybe
don't
you
know.
should talk to Jordan. This is exactly what he does in his with his coaching.
I was in the group for a little while.
He doesn't do
Um,
a group. The group is shut down.
oh, it did.
I mean,
Okay.
in his one-on-one, that's what he does.
Okay.
He'd help you. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think you gotta let go of the like it. I want him to just like recognize. You don't know how it will happen. It could happen
No, I mean,
anyway.
I don't rely on that. It's
Yeah.
just, it is a deep desire. You know, because I also hear those stories. It's not like I don't come across it. Um, but you know, like there was like a coffee speed dating thing for 40 plus this weekend that I wanted to go to, but it's sold out. And so then I was like, okay, I'll just have to keep track of it for the next time because I'm sure they'll do another one. There is a happy hour version of that. I mean, I'm not a drinker, but maybe I'll go to that anyway. Like I'm not closed down to doing other things. It's just generally it's the app stuff because it is a time sink
Yeah.
and I'm not really I don't know that I'm not so convinced that he's on there.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like, God, I need you to like convict me, like be on it or whatever. And like, I don't feel that yet. So I'm kind of like, I would like to be out in the world. Like one of my friends who's in her 50s, I'm like, we should like go to dinner and like sit at the bar. be out and available and like social and see if something happens, Like, also, there were girls the other day, they're younger than me, but they were like, we want to talk to the church elders actually about the epidemic of singleness because, like, even the young ones, they're like getting nowhere. And I think they are on the apps. And, they're like, we want help. We want help in the church. And so,
Well,
I don't know.
I don't know, but I do know that if you really wanted help, you could ask Jordan, and he would, in one session, tell you, this is what's in the way. This is what you need to do. Go do it.
Yeah.
But uh, other than that, I don't really know.
Yeah. I mean, I probably hesitated to do something like that too because I'm like, there are so many other things going on for me. And this is a priority, but I don't know how to prioritize it over like feeling better health wise
Well,
and like
see,
doing my Bible study or whatever. And so it's like those things, plus then I'll have like little fires that I have to put out in Bali because I still have that property and I want it to sell. And so it's just, I, in some cases, I'm like, I have to somehow like let go of all this other stuff to put
yeah,
time to that. And then at other times I'm like, it's so hard because like these things are actually really important and
yeah.
I don't know how to just drop them and I don't have someone else to give them to. You know what I mean? Like that's what happens when you're on your own is you have to handle all the things.
Really feel like the best advice someone gave me at one time, I was really young, but he was like this old man, yoga teacher man. And he is like, had long white hair and a white beard. And I was like in a retreat and I was just crying. And I was like, I don't even know what exactly. I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what it was about, like my life or something. But I was like in tears and I was just like, I'm confused and like, I don't know what to do. And I just was like crying and crying, and he just like looked right at me and he was just like, can it be okay to be confused? And I was like, I was like 20 years old. I was like, I guess maybe. Like, but I feel like that has stayed with me for a long time where it's like sometimes you just don't know, and it's like a season of not knowing, and you just,
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that are unsettled in my life, and being outside of God's jurisdiction for so long, there was a lot of cleanup of the choices I had made then, and I've made strides in that, but there's still some way to go. And then it's like, I also moved back to the country and then took forever to figure out where I was going to live. And then it's like, now I'm finally living where I want to live. And I half expect everything to already be in place. You know what I mean? And so I think it's what you're saying is like being okay with the not knowing, being okay with it being a process, just like letting things be slow. It's okay. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I think I do need more trust.
I'm more in friend mode than I am in, if I was in coach mode, we would go in, but I'm
No,
not.
no, no, no. I'm not telling you so that we could do the coach thing.
Oh no, I know. Um, but yeah. Anyway, I feel like we could wrap up. Is there anything you want to like about the church stuff? Will you just tell me? Will you just give me a Candace update?
Yes.
You're the
Yeah.
only person I know who's gonna give me one. At least if any of my friends listen to Candace, I don't yet know about it. So can you please tell me what's happening? Has
One of my
anything?
friends who's also my real estate agent, he keeps like at least once a week he'll send me something about like how ridiculous Candace is and I'm like, I'm not on this team. Like
I
I
like Candace.
I like her. I also like vehemently now hate how much conversation there is about her. I'm like, I don't care. And if you don't like her, just don't pay attention. Like it's really not that hard. Like, you
I don't
know.
know if she's right in the things that she says, but I think that she is she seems to me to be genuine and like really looking for the truth. I don't know. I just like her. I like listening to
And you
her.
have the gift of discernment. So I don't
But we
know.
don't
I
know. And
mean,
sometimes I'm wrong.
I know. But there's a lot of churchy people who will be like, she's, there's no fruit in what she's saying and doing, and she's of the
Well, the
devil.
big
And
thing for a long time is like she's, and she's anti-Semitic or whatever. But I have not really, I don't care really. Like I'm not really, I don't need to agree with her about Palestine to like be interested in the rest of what she's saying. So I'm just
yeah,
not.
I don't know. I mean, that all that stuff just sounds woke to me. Is like, oh, they're anti-Semitic because they just don't toe the line and just accept whatever they're told. That's
I
dumb.
just like what, but tell me,
Okay, so
is there any new update?
one of the things that I thought was really interesting that she shared, I find it hard to follow her sometimes. She's just like, there's like all these open threads. I like Baron Coleman a lot better,
I
or
don't know who
kind
that
of,
is.
he's very funny. He's a lot of fun. He's Catholic actually, but he ends every episode, I guess you call it. With Jesus loves you, don't
Oh,
forget. And I love it, but he's very funny, but he's a lawyer by trade, so his thinking process is different
oh.
and much more structured, and
Well,
he
it's
gives an
also really
opening.
hard to follow. Like, I was not listening to every episode of Candace, so it's hard when you miss things. But I just want the
Yeah.
overarching.
So she right now seems to be sort of like focused on seeing like the web of characters that um are nefarious for whatever reason. And so, but yesterday she talked a lot about like the GATE program and how Charlie was basically in like an X-Men type school because he was like so smart. And she's like, it's making me wonder if he's had handlers from when he was very, very young, because
Was he part of the gate thing?
I think so.
Mhm.
And that I think he left the special school though. And then when he when he got involved with that Jewish guy who was like his, I don't know, mentor type, but he was also kind of a psychic. I don't know. There's something weird about like this guy almost would give him like these spiritual insights that sounded like psychic stuff. I don't really get it. Um, from a very young age, before Charlie was really known, he had security. And so she was like, I never really thought about it until recently. That what does that mean? Why did he have it so young? He wasn't even really known yet. Like, what was going on there? He was in this school and he had these gifts. And so, like, she's trying to get into that and who these people were that were like around for so much of his life. But one of the things that she uncovered the other day that I think, it's still kind of an open-ended thing. They're trying to work out, like, there were dates on the calendar for Charlie to be speaking in other places within the next couple of weeks after his UVU appearance. And what seems to be the case is that the security team doesn't never seem to have a plan for any of those other appearances that were scheduled. And
Mhm.
so like they didn't have flights, they hadn't contacted the local police, they hadn't done the things that supposedly they normally do as a protocol. So like, I mean, there may be evidence of that kind of thing out there, but so far the people who have looked into it besides Candace are not finding anything. So they are now kind of settled that they knew, he was never supposed to leave there alive.
Yeah. This is the thing that I like about Candace is like, and what had was making me listen to her more and more was that when people tried to disprove her, they did not have very good like reasoning or like like there'd be these like tweets or whatever and things and people would be like Candace is lying because of these things and I would read it and be like that doesn't prove that she was lying though. So like unless I can find someone who actually like says a truthful thing that proves her wrong, then I still believe her. So
Yeah.
it's like, I
Yeah,
don't.
the thing my friend sent me the other day was like something from months ago, so you probably even saw it. It was like when she was tracking some of the planes and they were going through Delaware, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah,
she
Delaware seems
discovered,
to be a
yeah,
big location, hot spot.
yes. And there was that one building, that address that she was like, "Oh wow, that's um like the FBI and the CIA all have offices in this building, whatever." And then it was also discovered that her own lawyers for the Macron thing were in that same building. And he sent that to me as if it was like new and like, look at what an idiot she is. And I was like, this was months ago and nobody cares and it was already addressed. Like, I don't give a shit. That also, she could be controlled opposition. This all could be a script. I don't know.
I
But
don't know.
like at this point, you're not going to convince me that watching her is somehow going to like rot my brain or that I'm stupid for watching her or what. Like it's dumb. It's like if you don't like the Game of Thrones show, don't watch it.
Yeah.
You don't like Candace, don't watch her. It's like very simple to me. I'm like, this is all so
I was
dumb.
enjoying watching her. But it does all, it's very dark and it all comes together. And then when you start with the gate stuff and then it all leads back to pedophilia in one way or another and it's very creepy. But the gate stuff I don't get fully because, and I had to make myself not go into it fully, and then now I've banned myself from all of it entirely. But but the gate stuff I wonder about because they seem to like I was in but I wasn't in that program, but I was like in my school growing up, I was in a public school and we had gifted and talented like we had gifted program and I was in that. I was in gifted classes. But we didn't have like it wasn't like they described. They talk about this like pink drink. So
Mm.
I don't know if it was like a different thing entirely or if my school was just like too small town Pennsylvania to like be included.
I
But
mean,
I'm like
I
when
don't know if
sometimes
they
when
did
I
it in
read
every
that,
school.
okay, because when I read it, sometimes I'm like, do they mean what I did? But it doesn't sound the same.
No, if it doesn't sound the same, I would think it's not the same. But I don't know. It doesn't seem far-fetched to me with the way the deep state has operated, like that they would be trying to recruit from childhood.
They definitely
Like,
do that. I
yeah,
believe it all.
yeah,
Because the thing is, like, you just don't. There's no real way to get around. Like, I think Candace is right that Brigitte is a man.
I do too.
You watch all the things, I can't. I don't think like, and then you see all their reactions to it. I'm like, she's correct. I
Well, they're
believe her.
also not suing her for slander. They're suing her for bullying.
Yeah, which
And
is what
so,
you do
like,
when you're lying.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I don't know, but like in terms of the way that Charlie died, I don't know if you're interested in that, but I watched Trigger Smart the other day, had this guy John Aaron Bray on who he makes he makes body armor. Like that was his specialty and whatever and but he also makes like programs and so he was like doing this thing where he was tracking the way the shirt moved and where the heat was and all this kind of stuff through this computer program. And, based on his research, they also had Valhalla on, who's a military guy, a Green Beret, and like had him asking questions because it was like he knows, things to ask that these other guys don't. And anyway, they had this whole like it was almost 3 hours, but the exploding mic theory is very compelling. Like
Really?
very, very compelling.
What do you
Because
mean?
there's
That
something
the
called a
mic
shape,
is?
there's a shape charge is what it's called. And the shape charge would kind of like, it moves like a bullet, I guess. Like it's a, it has a direction. It's not just a psh. And so, he's in the process now of creating like replicas of all of the things so that he can test it. But
Oh,
he's like not in the 90%
thanks.
sure that this is what happened. And those shape charges were made at this factory in Tennessee, and
Oh,
and that factory blew up in
cool.
October,
What
and
happened
there's
with?
nothing
Oh,
left of it.
what happened with Erica? Did they find out why she was at the place at the fort? At the
No, they haven't fully proved that yet. supposedly there might be a photo out there. They haven't showed anything from that. But one of the things about the Fort Huachuca thing that I think is really needs more attention at some point is, I mean, she may have been there, but the fact that there's programs going on there that are specific to Christian organizations being
Yeah.
infiltrated and them being trained in how to do that.
Well,
Now,
doesn't that make so much sense?
totally. And like now at the church I left, that pastor, after I left, flat out said, I am a Zionist. Like, and if you have a problem with that, like basically you're welcome to leave. And it was like, this is such a weird, like, why are you doing that? And like, knowing also that the historical churches do not have that same approach and belief about
Yeah.
Israel. I'm just like, what? At my current church, he did actually say a little bit of something, but he didn't seem to care. Like it was very refreshing that he just was like, this is like this is like, we're not getting into all of these things. And he said, from what I read in the Bible, I think it would be very strange if God did not have a plan for the land and his people. He's like, I'm not saying all Jews, but I think he has some plan for them, and I don't need to know what that is. Like, and he's like, you don't have to agree with what the nation is doing. And he just moved on. And I was like, that's fantastic. But the other guy was like, and he's
Huh.
in bed with Rob McCoy and like those guys, and he's like very much about who he knows at the other church that I left. So, hearing that, like, oh, they've infiltrated the organizations, and actually the churches didn't all believe this before a certain time, and then they did after that program started. It's
Yeah.
like, hello,
Oh,
you
it's
know?
all so interesting. Yeah, it's like you just don't even know who's real and who's not, who's but
Yeah.
I really do care about uh Erica because I feel like if she was part of it in any way, I would just feel very deceived because I liked watching their love together and I felt like it was so genuine and cute. And so
Yeah.
if I were to find out that that was not a real thing, I would feel like, wow, I was very deceived. Like I don't know. I don't know.
I I now think that she is a handler, that she was a plant.
Well, it seems like if she was at the thing, it doesn't, the longer it goes on, the more fishy it seems, and it all just doesn't seem good at all.
Well, she also, oh, there's a big thing right now about people are trying to figure out if she actually has the kids because it
Oh,
seems that his parents may have taken custody of the kids.
oh,
And there are stories, and like I think getting confirmation of the stories and the things is like very difficult. I'm not sure that that stuff is public, but um, there's been a couple of people who have been around Erica, who've gone on podcasts and accidentally said, like she lost her husband, she lost her kids. And then people are like, and then they try to, like, you can see that they like try to get beyond what they just said really quickly. And you're like, she lost her kids? What do
oh,
you mean? And so like there's something there. And I actually started to wonder, like, what if it's that his parents didn't take the kids, but that actually she was an agent or an asset or whatever, and that their plan was to use her and then take the kids because they're like, I don't know, there's some sort of dark agenda with that. And then I was like, maybe that's what makes her emotional, is that actually, like, I don't know. I mean, that's a very far-fetched theory, but like, Baron tried to play her that that speech that she did immediately after he died.
yeah.
And it's so cringy to watch now. I
Is it?
remember,
I loved it at the time, and I'll just say for everyone, I know you know, but I sound very excited, but I at the time I was very devastated
oh,
when
are you
Charlie
gonna,
died.
this is gonna be,
Oh, should I not have
published.
it be public? I mean, I don't know, we're still recording. We
Yeah, I
never
know.
ended.
I know. I didn't really think about
Do you
it.
want me to cut it out?
Let me think about that. Carry on though, what you were
Okay.
saying.
Um, what was I gonna say? Uh,
Her speech.
oh, I was just gonna say at the time I was very, very, I am very sad that he died. Like I'm not just like, oh, tell me all the gossip. I was really, I was like in my bed crying for 2 days. So I'm just, but now I find it all very, it's all very fishy.
Yeah. I think, also I was very emotional when he died. I cried for probably a week or two. When I saw her speech, I do remember thinking there were parts of it that were weird, but I also didn't want to think anything of her. And so I kind of was just like, I'm not paying attention to that. I'm just, in the emotion of the loss and the things. But when you rewatch it, it looks like really bad acting. And I do recall also when she, posted the video of herself with his dead body, that really put me in a weird place where I was like, this feels so wrong and weird and unnatural to me. And again, because I didn't want to think anything bad of her at the time, I just was like, I know everybody grieves differently, but also maybe just because she's part of a younger generation where they do put everything online, maybe this is like normal in her world somehow, but like that felt very, very strange. And now with her saying, can I just have something to myself and can I just have, privacy and whatever, because she doesn't want anyone to know where Charlie is buried. Um, and I can respect that and totally understand that idea, but it's like it seems in contrast to the sharing the casket moment with the
Yeah.
public. And
Mm.
so it's just like there's just weird inconsistencies and like when now that I'm like willing to look at her in a negative light, it's like you go back and you're just like, oh, it's so cringe. It's so hard. And like, she did the Amfest thing and that thing was like a mess and what she was doing with Nicki Minaj and Charlie did not get down with that and she's just like, I love you and like I don't know, it feels like they really wanted control of TPUSA and that whatever tendrils that has out into the land of politics and power and whatever, I think it's beyond what we comprehend, and I think that it's now going to be some sort of Trojan horse, and it's like a pretend Christian organization and not real.
Yeah, that's how it feels
So
to me too.
yeah.
I like unsubscribed from their emails and stuff because I was just probably a couple weeks after it happened because I was just like, now I don't know. Now this is feeling weird. It's like,
They were asking for money, right? Immediately after.
yeah, which is fine. I don't know. It's just, everything just started to feel weird, and then I got to a point very quickly where I was like, I don't really know if I believe anyone. Like I don't. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's wrap up.
Okay.
Um, is there anything we didn't touch on about the churches that you would want to say? Or do you think we like covered
Yeah, I
the
think we covered
majority of it?
it.
I feel like the main thing that I would say is just like what I like about discussing this on the podcast and with you is just like I feel still very much on the whole journey of like figuring it all out. And that was why I wanted to like do another episode, um, like an update episode kind of. It's just like I feel like um not that my mind has really changed since like a year ago, but just like I've learned more, or like had more experiences and it's just like this is still going on and I feel like the process I'm in right now of becoming Christian like now it kind of looks like this. It's like finding like what church and where do I fit, and uh just noticing all these different issues with the different churches that there are, and like what do you do with that? And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I just wanted to be able to talk about that and like share about that a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I think choosing church based in like sound doctrine and people you can and want to do life with, I think those are probably really good places to start. But yeah, like where you end up in terms of denomination and all of that, it's interesting and tricky, I think, especially when you're really trying to drive towards like what is the truth.
Yeah.
And so it often feels like it's somewhere in between all of the denominations, actually. Um, and then, I guess it would be a personal decision or a God decision of where you end up, and like maybe you have different beliefs, but you're still, or different ways of being with some of the beliefs, but in a church that just feels right.
Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. This has been fun.
We'll say bye to everyone for now and for the foreseeable future until maybe one day there will be another episode. Okay, bye.
Bye.